All right. Welcome to episode 13 of the Nincompoops podcast. We have the usual hosts here me, Jim, Dean, Kenny, Jeffrey, and Paul.
Hello.
And
Hi. Hello. Hi, everyone.
we have a special guest this week. His name is Joram. And say hi, Joram.
Hello, Nincompoops fans. My name is Joram, and I am today's guest.
Yeah, you've been probably the most loyal viewer. You've been watching it every live stream for like the last month or so, at least.
Yeah, I remember when you first told me you guys are doing a podcast. The first idea that popped into my head, I was like, I wonder how this is gonna go. Definitely got to see how this goes.
I think that was like all of us thought the same thing.
Yeah, so like I said, all right, check it out. The first episode was long, but there were funny moments in there, and I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot every week, see how I do.
Now was it long or was it too long in your opinion? That first episode.
If it was for someone who didn't know who you guys were, that might have been a bit too long. But since I've known you guys since high school, I was like, I genuinely enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Understandable.
I'm sure you got a blast of the story where I didn't say hi to Dean after you said hi to me.
I got a blast when you brought up how everyone compared you to Paul. Or you like the carbon copy of Paul.
Yeah. But yeah, since this is your first appearance on the podcast, why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and how you know us? I mean, you already said through high school, but...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So my name is Joram, and I've known everyone here on the podcast since high school. We practically met through ROTC, each one of us, and I'm pretty sure they've mentioned in the first episode how they each met and whatnot. But yeah, I remember meeting everybody for a majority. It was through ROTC. Probably exception was only Paul, only because we had Japanese together.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're right.
We had Japanese together, and I only started really interacting with Paul when we were paired up for this Japanese film project.
No, we met up first when we had to do a skit in front of the class.
Oh yeah, that's
I
right.
bet you Joram was like, "Fuck, I gotta be with the quiet kid."
I was like, oh shoot. Well, you know what? Okay.
I think it was just
Little
more the fact.
backstory. I knew I was not going to take Japanese again the next year. I was like, oh well, I might as well get the average and the C in this class. So I was like, all right, I'll do my best I can on the project. We'll see where this goes. And I got paired with Paul, and I don't know how we ended up pairing with each other, but I just got.
I think for me it was just like, oh, ROTC guy, because we had to wear uniforms every Thursday.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And I was like, ROTC guy. I'm ROTC. Might as well.
It was a trap. I'm just kidding. But
we did fine on the first midterm, though.
We did fine up until we had to do the film, the actual film skit, and everything just shit just hit the fan really quick, basically.
I was terrible with technology back then. I knew nothing. I didn't even know how to film. I didn't even know what editing was, let alone know how to do it.
Just to speed up the story here, there was a key scene we had to do, and it involved a skit we were doing basically during school hours, and we had to use the rifles from ROTC, the drill team rifles from ROTC. And we were getting ready and everything, and then all of a sudden Paul gets called to the principal or associate principal's office, and I assume it wouldn't take that long, but Paul is there for basically the whole lunch period, so we just never got that huge chunk, that 45-minute chunk of filming we were supposed to do. Never happened, and we just had to basically rush and finish everything because I believe the project was due the next day. And I remember before the project started, our Japanese sensei told us that usually when the projects end badly, friendships are ruined and those people are never friends again. And so he I kid you not, he looked at us and he's like, make sure you choose your partners carefully. And in my head I'm like, yo, what the heck, man? Why are you looking at me? But yeah, so the project ended up badly, but me and Paul are still friends to this day. And
despite our best efforts, I had every intention of like acing that final, but
and Paul, you made it through. You made it fine.
I was somehow able to pass the class and move on to like G2.
But yeah, that's basically how I met a majority of people. Jimmy, I guess, is Jim's like the most recent person I met, quote, around that out of everyone here, only because obviously he came into Silver Creek much later than everybody else, and he's probably one of the closer friends, at least in high school, with my cousin. So I was able to know him and that through RTC and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I guess a little bit about me. I'm currently, I guess I'll just talk about what I'm currently doing. I'm currently supposed to be a substitute teacher for Eastside Union High School District, but obviously with the whole COVID pandemic, I'm not doing that right now. I'm currently trying to work on getting my master's at SJSU in public administration, and I graduated from UC Davis in 2017 in political science. And that's pretty much it about me.
All right. Like Joram said, he's a political science major. And even though me and Paul are also really into politics, we're both not political science majors, whereas Joram is. And because of that, Joram knows a little bit more about American government than your average American. And that's partly what we're going to talk about today. It's also a little bit to make up for the fact there's no presidential debate, but also because we just want to do one. I think the idea was pitched last week to do this, or the week before that.
I think it was
last
2
week.
weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna have a little friendly debate / discussion. It's gonna be more towards the discussion format, where we're gonna talk about a lot about politics. So if you're really not into politics or you really hate politics, this might not be the episode for you. But if you're here for our friend here, Joram, then hope you stay and hope you enjoy the things we're gonna talk about. The topics we're gonna have are a lot of it's gonna be actual politics, but a lot of it's also gonna be really random bullshit where it has nothing to do with politics whatsoever, and they're gonna debate and discuss.
Duke it out to the death.
If you're not here for politics, just pick which guy was less annoying at the end of this.
Yeah, and
Wow,
and also I also want to say whether or not you agree more with Paul in this discussion or you're gonna agree more with Joram in this discussion, just know that regardless of how the debate goes, or if there are winners or losers or whatever, because in life there are winners and there are losers.
That's a great quote. Not for me though. That's what I'm just saying.
Just know that if someone is a weaker debater, no matter who it is between the two, it doesn't mean that their points are any less correct or any less wrong. Just that just us kind of shooting ideas off of each other, and
Indeed.
hopefully you guys can relate to any of it.
Yep.
Or agree with any of it at least.
Yes.
Can I add on something to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just because we may not agree on everything here, it does not mean that I hate Paul, or I hope Paul doesn't hate me.
I hate
Oh, man.
every part of my feet.
The sweat.
I respect every opinion and thought that Paul will put into this debate.
Yeah, and it's also just worth saying that that even though we may disagree, we're just people. We're not the people in charge of running the country. So even though Joram's beliefs are more conservative than Paul's, Joram's at least honest, and he's believes in it because he thinks is what's best, and not because he's being paid off by something else or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just, in the end, we're all just people, and it'd be really boring if we all just agreed like we're all the copies of each other politically and all that stuff.
Indeed, yeah. None of the stuff here, or when it comes to like any discussion, especially when it comes to politics, nothing comes purely from a place of hate. It's always like some kind of like a place of love or like wanting to see the country actually get better. It's just we all have like different views on how to make the country better or what even a better country even is.
Right.
Land, bread, and peace. Yeah.
I can get behind that.
So how we're gonna start this is that we're gonna start with an opening topic that they will discuss, and after that, we'll move on to them, where the two of them decides on a topic together and agree on it to talk about it. And after that, it'll go down the list in the group, where we each take turn asking questions. That way, everyone can get equal representation onto participating and asking questions and all that stuff. So, without further ado, you guys want to start? And also, by the way, we're gonna how we're also gonna do it is that when we mention a topic, like I mentioned before we started the call, was that let's say the topic is like our hot dogs sandwiches. We're gonna each get their individual takes before they start discussing it amongst each other. So that way, we can get idea of what they believe. And let's begin. So the first opening topic will be: who would win in a fight, 100 cripples or Jeffrey on steroids and crack? Why?
Who's going first here?
Oh man. How crippled are these cripples?
and what steroids are we talking about here?
The good kind.
The good kind.
Yeah, how crippled are they? Are they like, if they're all blind, then that's.
They range from crutches to wheelchairs.
I don't know, man. Those blind cripples. Have you ever seen like a Chinese movie?
Yeah, have you ever seen Daredevil? I don't know, man. Some might be very skillful.
Blind people can kick your ass.
Okay, if they have the ability of Daredevil, then I think Jeffrey's screwed no matter how many. But okay, let's say they're just regular cripples, and Jeffrey is on steroids and crack. Is Jeffrey armed with anything?
No, it's just fist. Bare fist.
Yeah.
Fist.
It's a
But he's angry. He's very angry.
He's armed with anger and pure hopes and dreams.
He's very angry. Okay.
I'm afraid that my knuckles can last more than 20 punches, dude.
100 cripples. I'm gonna give Jeffrey the benefit of the doubt. I think he can pull through.
All 100.
Yep. I mean, the one Jeffrey's got to think this through, though. He's got to go after the ones that don't have the leg power first, so they'll be slower, and then he'll take out the ones the really weak ones afterwards, and I think he could pull out and win.
Okay.
I'm going to play the contrarian here and say that the one is good. Ever seen like those zombie movies where there's like some zombies? It's the slow-moving zombie movies, not the ones where they sprint or run.
Okay. Well, obviously, I mean these are cripples, so.
Or even ones that are even just like crawling on the ground. Somehow they're able to like overpower the main cast or character or whatever, and somehow able to like just kill him right away. Or not even right away, even just like a slow death. At some point, Jeffrey's just gonna get tired, because 100 people is a lot. Eventually he's gonna get tired because he even just said just now, like, I hope my fist can like last through like 20 people. Was it like 20 people?
Yeah, I said 20 people. Or can last more than 20 punches.
20 punches? That's not even like... That
20 good punches.
20 punches. That may or may not be like a full person. So there could be like some in wheelchairs. Wheelchair boys. They go real fast. Alright, you ever seen like the Special Olympics?
Yeah, Paralympics.
Paralympics.
Oh yeah, they can do backflips and front flips in wheelchairs. I've seen them.
Fuck yeah, those cripples. Don't underestimate them. All right, just because they don't got full range of motion in their body, don't mean they can kick your ass.
So jumping on that, Jeffrey. Let's not forget he is jacked up on steroids and crack.
That is true. That is true. I forgot about the steroids and crack.
And if he's really smart, he would push one off their wheelchair and use their wheelchair against them.
That is true.
You can use them as a battering ram.
Oh my god! You would imagine. You would imagine me pushing everyone that's in a wheelchair off of the wheelchair. Like I tipped them.
Jeffrey,
like,
do you want to win this fight or not? Because it sounds like you want to lose this fight, Jeffrey.
You have to add in the fact that Jeffrey back in high school would just like apologize for like every little thing. So he might be one. He's like a Canadian that lives here in the U.S. where he's just like, well, he's like just beating up cripples. He's just like sorry.
It's probably like a Jackie Chan, his movies. Every time he fights, he actually does apologize after.
That's true.
Or in the middle of it. So I could kind of see that happening too.
Yeah, but you're not Jackie Chan though. Jackie Chan he's something else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jackie Chan doesn't take
God,
steroids and crack.
Yeah, but
Didn't Jackie Chan's son get like arrested for drug possession?
marijuana, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was
That was an odd
was
story.
it was just marijuana though, right?
Was it
Like,
marijuana? I thought it was
Yeah,
just more hardcore than that.
No, it was just marijuana. If I remember correctly. I think.
Yeah, no. To the best of my knowledge, it was just marijuana.
It was just some weed. Calm down, China.
He was doing. I think he was smoking it too, which is what got him in trouble.
Mm.
I guess the law. Well, it's pretty obvious that there are certain laws that are way stricter over there compared to over here.
So I mean, that's kind of what happens when you're in an authoritarian country.
True.
So just to summarize, Joram is pro Jeffrey, and then Paul is anti Jeffrey. Is that correct?
That sounds accurate.
That is
I am
accurate.
Anti Jeffrey. I am against this man.
Yeah, dude, what
You
did
can-
you do?
What did I ever do to you, Paul?
He didn't share his crack and steroids. You were hoarding it all for this fight, weren't you?
Mm-hmm. I can use some of that.
Emergency crack and steroids.
He has a hole in his shoe where he just like pops it out, I need it.
If you make Jeffrey like hungry before the fight too, that could also like add to his favor as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's true. But then
Hangry
if it's hangry Jeffrey, that's like Super Saiyan Jeffrey right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. For those of you that don't know, yeah, I do get hangry, and if I don't eat, yeah, I get a little moody.
Yeah, very moody.
I like how he downplayed it. Yeah, I get a little moody.
All right. Is that it for you guys concerning
Yeah,
the Jeffrey
that's
fight?
Yeah.
that's all I need to say about that.
Okay. So you guys will agree on the topic after this very quick question. So what do you guys follow politics?
You can go ahead and start on this one, Paul.
Yeah, sure. So how I got into politics was I think how like a lot of young people in this country got into politics was like back in like 2015, 2016. Because that's when like there was the largest amount of like voter turnout for like young people in modern U.S. political history. Was when I first heard about this one old guy named like Bernie Sanders. I don't know how I came across him. Maybe like just I think it's just like I was just scrolling through Facebook one day and I just like saw this guy like doing this speech. I'm like, I kind of like what this guy's saying. I'll look into him more. And I looked more into like his policies, and then I started looking on like YouTube and all that. Got recommended from the the whole YouTube algorithm back then. Got recommended some like political commentators, some like leftists. I started off with like watching like the Young Turks, then branched off onto like Secular Talk, Humanist Report, and eventually over time I just got more and more interested. Because like before, like back in like high school, I think like most people, like when it came to like talks about politics, I was like, I don't care for that. That's stupid. I'm not gonna waste my time on that. Just let all the old people like focus on that. It has got nothing to do with me. But then after time, I realized, as I watched like the 2016 election, I realized, wow, this is a lot more fucked than I thought it was. Maybe I should start paying attention more. So I started like volunteering for the Bernie Sanders campaign, just doing like phone calls, texting, just like knocking on doors and all that. And I was really sure that he was going to win the primary up until obviously it didn't happen. And after that, after like the 2016 election when Trump beat Hillary Clinton, I tuned out from politics for maybe about like a year, and just like I'm way too depressed about this. I don't want to like think about politics. I'm not gonna like touch it. I'm not doing anything about it until maybe after a year after my slump. I just like, okay, I'm not gonna be like super into it, but I will follow along and see what's going on, because when Trump won, it became nothing felt real. Reality felt way different than it did before. Just knowing someone like super unqualified has occupied the highest office in the land, and he's like, it just like changed my perception of reality. Like, wow, if someone like Donald Trump, if someone like him could be like president of the United States, then what the fuck am I doing? Just like, why am I putting all this effort in just like going to college, going to school, going for like all these qualifications to like kiss ass to my employer for like a job, when literally just like, yeah, I'll be president and it's gonna be great, and I could just like BS my way through life. I'm like, what the fuck? This ain't real. And 2020 elections came along, or Bernie Sanders was coming rerunning. I was like, fuck yeah. And yeah, that's pretty much just like a quick summary, not everything, but of how I got into politics.
All right, Joram.
Shoot. Well, unlike Paul, I want to say my earliest recollection of me really being into politics was probably like during grade school. I remember back in elementary, I told my teachers and whatnot, like I always wanted to be the president of the United States. But there was a sad reality that hit me: the fact that I wasn't born in the United States. I could not be president of the United States. So that got shattered pretty quickly. But I don't know. I mean, when I entered high school or middle school, I genuinely enjoyed history. It's probably my best subject out of all the major subjects in school. I just thought it was very interesting. Even though every year I felt like I covered probably the same core historical topics and whatnot, it was always just very interesting to get a different perspective in them, and especially when it came to like stuff within government. And I never I come from, in terms of politics, a majority conservative family. A majority of my family are conservative, so I grew up with like, you know, those ideals on me. But when I entered high school, it was really nice to see that other side, like the other side of the argument and whatnot. And I felt that is what really swayed me into getting really more interested in it more. And the fact that I was just so interested in it, it's primarily why I even pursued that as my major. I just thought, you know, this is the face value of what we see when we think politics, but there's just so many offshoots that I feel like people don't know about with it when it comes to politics, like the philosophy behind it, the economic factor behind it, the social factor behind it. I just thought that was just interesting. I guess it's just a nerd in me, but I thought it was just interesting, which is why I got really into it. And the fact that from 2015 till now, there's been a reason to get involved in politics, it's just a plus for me. So.
Oh man, this is like bringing back some stuff. I realized I wasn't, when I mentioned like 2015, that wasn't. Now that I remember some stuff, like back in like when I was going to like community college.
Mm-hmm.
2015 was actually not the first time I was like super interested in politics, but it was like when I realized I was. But I think, yeah, I'm like changing my answer up a little bit. Because now I remember when I was like going to community college, I first took, I think at my second or third quarter, I took like a California political science class. That was pretty interesting, and I think they like had a pretty good professor there. And I was like, oh, okay, this stuff is actually like way more interesting than I thought it was. Wasn't as boring as I thought. And then I think the 2 quarters later, I took another political science class. I don't think it was required or anything. I think I was just like trying to like get credits just so I could like transfer over to like university. And I think that's like when I got more into it, when I started learning more about like, let's say for example like the banana wars during like the late 1800s, when the United States like went into like South America for like fucking bananas or something like that. And I think that was like, cause I used to be like definitely like more conservative when we were in ROTC together, just like pro-military and all that, and just thinking like, yeah, USA #1, and how we're like the good guys on the world stage. But going through that class, I realized like, maybe the United States isn't as great and glamorous as I thought it would be. So yeah, just when you like brought up like grade school or just like school in general, when you first talked about politics, that just like helped me remember like, oh yeah, shit, there's also this other aspect as well before 2015.
Okay. Is there anything else you guys want to discuss concerning this, or?
No, I think I covered what I needed to say when it came to like how I really got into this.
Okay.
Yeah,
what about you, Paul?
Same.
I just want to add that, yeah, a lot like we all have different levels of interest when it comes to politics, and especially in this group. Paul, me, and Joram probably the most by far, but I think Jeffrey follows it usually when it comes to election, right? Like most Americans usually do pay attention more when it comes to elections, and then they kind of fade off a little bit until the next one.
Well, more like federal.
Kind of like
federal elections. But that's the one everyone pays attention to. But then no one really cares about like the Senate race or the the House representative races going on. And then Kenny has some interest, but he hasn't really expressed interest in like following it. He mostly just kind of gets information from what he sees off of social media or what we say whenever we talk about certain things that pop up. And then Dean, I think Dean has opinions, but he doesn't really follow it, regardless of what year it is or whether or not it's closer to the election. And that's just like Dean's actually representative of most young people, like or maybe Jeffrey, but I think more Dean, because if you look at the numbers, younger people just vote at far lower levels, despite us being the majority of the country, whereas older people tend to vote more. And I think this group is a good batch of all the different types of people in that, and it's really unfortunate that people like Dean don't feel compelled to vote or to really learn. But it's not their fault. I think it's more just the political climate that we're just kind of growing. Like, if you're a high schooler in America, chances are you probably think the government's corrupt by default, even though you might not know what's going on and stuff. It's just kind of a natural reaction we all kind of have, and that kind of sucks. But yeah, that'll be it concerning that. Now that we have that question out of the way, Joram and Paul are now going to decide on a topic on our list of topics that we could talk about and agree on it, and then we'll talk about that.
Shit, I forgot about this part.
So it doesn't have to be on the guaranteed topics, right?
Doesn't have to be. It could be the actual politics part or the random BS part if you guys want.
I wish we had like a random number generator or something.
Random
BS.
Like,
if all these were like numbered like 1, 2, whatever, and just like
we'll
just put that in. Just like, okay, number 5, let's do that.
If you guys don't want to pick one, I mean, we can't just move on to someone picking for you, but. If you guys want to talk about something, just bring it up.
Is there any topic in particular you really want to talk about, Paul?
So before earlier today when I finally had time to like just sit down and actually just like, oh yeah, we have a debate today.
Mhm.
The topics I researched today were like stuff like Medicare for all, UBI, military spending, and free college and canceling student debt. Those are pretty much the main stuff that I looked into. But for
I think most of those are covered in here.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think all of that stuff is here. But it doesn't really matter which one. I like to be surprised. Like I'm fine with like you picking or one of you guys picking as well. have no
I
preference.
for the most part of the topics here, I'm okay if like one of you guys chooses it. Also, I mean,
I can randomize this. You guys want me to randomize this? I can do this.
yeah, I think that works.
Yeah, I got it. I can do it. Just give
Thank
me,
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
all right, 1 second. All right, ready? We're gonna
Number,
generate it.
random number generated. Hey.
Okay. Hold on to your horses. 3, 2, 1.
in this economy,
All right, ready? Oh wait,
yeah, we're like
that didn't. Sorry, the number just shifted.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Yeah,
said the titles.
All right, ready? Which? Did it shift it again?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm just moving the
That
numbers.
should be that should be the last time, I think.
It's the last one. It's the last one. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, anyways, I'm just gonna ask this: whose dick would you rather suck, Shaquille O'Neal or Michael Jordan?
Of course, it'd be this.
Was that a
That
random
popped up in the
number,
random
or
numbers
like
thing?
I really want to know
That was
whose
a.
dick is getting sucked?
It's,
Austin-
I can
Austin
rephrase it
generator?
again.
Nah, it says right there.
No, it's very straightforward. Yeah.
It's very straight.
who,
like
answered,
dicks
who,
for
answered,
sucking.
who answered first in the last one?
I did.
Ah, shit. Okay, I guess I'll go with this one.
Wait. So you said whose dick?
Whose dick would you rather suck, Shaq?
Okay.
or Michael?
So you're going first, Joram?
Yeah, I'll
Joram's
go
going
first
first.
since Paul went last. Oh shit. Okay. Whoever came up with this question, you've got an imagination.
This we are the Nincompoops podcast.
Okay, Shaq
All
or
the
Michael?
degenerates.
Think about it. Take your time.
We're talking about as of right now, right?
Yeah, like right now, like if you had to, like get on your knees.
Well, you're very excited about this, Jeffrey. Well, Joris is there. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go with Shaq.
You want to go with Shaq?
I'm always Shaq because one, he's not as old as Mike, so you know you can only imagine.
Yeah, he wants that fresh dick.
What are their ages? Because I don't follow basketball.
Well, Michael Jordan came into the league like in 1984, I believe. No, not 84. 80s, late 80s, I think. I don't recall.
All right, so Michael Jordan is 57.
Okay, and Shaq is.
48.
It's a 9-year age difference. I'll take it. Yeah, I'll go with Shaq. Younger and he seems pretty more chill.
More virile. more energy. Isn't well okay, if Michael Jordan's older, Shaq is like definitely taller though, isn't he?
Yeah, Shaq's a
Yeah, yeah, Shaq's very tall.
He's giant.
He surpasses 7 feet. He's 7'1".
I guess
That's
another.
wild.
Yeah, I guess
How-
that's
how-
another.
How
that's
old is? How old is? Oh no, how tall is Michael Jordan?
It's like
Uh,
6'4", 6'5".
Let me see.
6'4". That's within the realm of like tall,
Shaq-
but still.
He's 6'6".
Oh,
Shaq's
6'6".
gotta be. Shaq's gotta be at
Are
least.
you
like,
trying to find out who has the mediator dick?
I'm trying to find out who has the shorter dick.
Whoa, Paul! You're gonna have to go to some. You're gonna go to some really specific
dude, if
websites for
I'm-
those,
if I'm-
Paul.
We're talking about sucking one of these guys' dicks, okay? Now
Well, I made my choice. I'll go with Shaq.
I'm thinking,
And it looks like you really want Michael.
no. I'm like thinking. I'm trying to like strategize here, like whichever has like the shorter dick, because that dick is going into my mouth, okay?
You know, Paul,
I
the
don't
best
want-
way to figure that
I
out
don't
is
want
just
a
set both of
giant.
them.
I don't want a giant anaconda in there, okay? I can't do that. I've never sucked a dick before. I'm not saying I never will, but I'm
Wait, I
just
thought you
saying.
did.
Whoa, Paul. Whoa, wait.
What is that? Just a case
Back-
closed thing.
Did
Hey,
the
I
tell just
don't-
come out?
I don't know
Is that
what
what
the
happened?
future holds. I can't say like I'll never suck a dick in the future. I don't know that.
so
I don't know what,
Well,
I don't know what future Paul would do.
This is really what this episode about is,
Wow.
Paul. This is not
Paul
a
came
debate.
out of the closet.
It's us accepting you for who you are, Paul.
Paul,
Hey,
you
I'm-
thought this was a debate?
I'm-
This was just Paul
I'm-
coming out.
I'm just keeping an open mind about things. I don't know what future Paul, what antics he'll get into, what shenanigans he'll.
In what situation would you ever be with Michael Jordan or Shaq, Paul?
Hey, knowing what happened to me back in like 2018 and early parts of 2019, I'm not Paul falling into a situation where he's like has to pick between like sucking Shaquille O'Neal's dick or Michael Jordan's dick. I'm not saying that's not never going to happen.
wow.
It could very well be a possibility.
So in the future, if Michael Jordan was like, "Hey, you want to suck my dick?" You saying that's a non-zero chance that you'll say no.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Non-0% chance.
A non-0% chance.
Paul was just like, okay,
You know, I
this
think
is happening.
Yeah. Paul's all like, "Hey, you got your rings on you? All right, I'll do it."
oh my god. You know, there's actually a term for this with what explains Paul. It's called trisexual.
No, this show's called me being an open-minded individual.
No, that's just you being gay.
Anyways, if dick size, this is definitely pseudoscience. If dick size were like a correlation between like height, then I'll go with like Michael Jordan, just because like he's not 7 foot.
You gotta remember, Paul. This is Michael Jordan you're talking about. If you screw up, he's gonna want you to do it again.
Yeah, I know nothing about Michael Jordan's personality. Shaq seems like a chill guy from the little bits and pieces I saw of him on
Space Jam.
TV. I know, legit. I've like seen people talk about Shaq. And I've probably seen him like talk a few times, like on like award shows or something. But that's just like when I'm like in a restaurant just eating. It's like, oh look, I think that's Michael Jordan. Or
I
Shaq.
can imagine. Paul's in the restaurant. Oh look, it's Mike. I wonder how his dick is.
I
I'm
won't.
not saying I won't suck his dick. I'm just saying
I
that.
I can guarantee you, I never thought about that before. But what happens after today's question? Maybe.
Wow.
But my answer will probably be Michael Jordan, if on the chance that his dick is shorter.
Well, I
So
can say with a guarantee that I will not be gay around Michael Jordan any time from now. So I'll go say that statement.
We get it, Paul. You really like Michael Jordan.
I'm not gonna lie. Before, when I asked the question like who's older, I thought Michael Jordan was younger than Shaq. That's how much I know about these two.
It's alright.
So right.
All right.
All right, that ends that.
That ends
All
the
right.
question.
So we'll start with me asking a question, and then next will be Dean asking a question after that. So I'm gonna ask. I'm going down the guaranteed topics. Yeah.
Okay.
So the question for you guys is it really the left versus the right? Is that the big ideological war going on in this country where, you know, the left is like, hey, we believe in this, and the right's like, hey, I believe in this, and then, you know, like, you guys are the enemy, or you guys are the opponent we have to beat or something. Is that the reality you guys think we live in?
Alright, so I'll go first. My answer to that is like definitely not. That's like I had to burp for a second. That was like a super like simplified view of politics, like just left versus right. It's pretty much the same as like black versus white in that one side is good or one side is bad. Left versus right just ignores the factors like a bunch of different ideologies on the political spectrum. You could be like far left. You could be like far left, like communist, or you could be like far right, like fascist. You could be like a centrist. You could be like a progressive. You could be like a liberal. You could be like a neoconservative, a neo-liberal, and all that. It could even just be like even like that little chart with like the 4 squares. Like you've all seen it before, like on like YouTube, like those like in the comment section. There's always someone that has that, where just like the green square in the bottom left and like the blue and all that.
Right.
Even that I feel as though is kind of like a simplification, but I'm not smart enough to know how to make it more accurate. But it's definitely more accurate than just like left versus right. It's like, and like calling someone like centrist or like non-decided doesn't mean they're between like left-wing policies or right-wing policies. It's just more like, at least for me, when I was like an independent for like most of my time after being eligible to vote, it wasn't because like, oh, I think the right has some good ideas and I think the left has some good ideas, but I can't decide. It's just more like, I would definitely consider myself more left, but the Democratic Party in the United States wasn't the kind of left that I was looking for. They felt more centrist or even like center-right, in my opinion. So yeah, there's a lot of nuance when it comes to like political ideology in the United States, or like even right. But especially in the United States, it's way too much of a simplification to accurately describe people's beliefs.
All right. And Joram, just to clarify, would you consider yourself to be a left winger or a right winger? I know this kind of goes against what Paul just explained, but just for the sake of identifying for the audience, kind of where you are. Where would you say
I
you are?
think I'm a bit more centrist when it comes to those. Yeah, like I guess this will lead into what I have to say. I don't really think it's left versus right. I just feel like that's a more archaic way when you really think about like the stuff going on in politics right now. And I don't want to off-put a lot of the older people, but a lot of the current generation and the newer generation, I feel like their beliefs and what ideologies, like they think about when it comes to politics, I feel like they blend. Because like with someone like me, yeah, I grew up in a more conservative political view household and a family, but I never necessarily agreed with everything that they talked about. I was usually one that, in terms of economics, I guess I'm more conservative economic views, but when it comes to like social, I'm drawing a blank here. Basically, other stuffs that some could label more liberal views when it comes to government. Like I side with them, some of those things. So it's a lot harder now to just say that it's left versus right, because I feel like as the newer generation comes to fold, and as there's a lot of the older people that don't want to, as dark as this is, allows them die. I feel like a majority of us are gonna look at it as like it's just not the black and white view of left versus right that in the past people would have probably thought of.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like as you mentioned before, with like economics, like some people are more left wing when it comes to economics. Some people are more right wing or more conservative. There's also, when it comes to like social, there's like more authoritarian ways of viewing the world, and there's also more libertarian ways, where libertarian like more like individual freedoms for like your average person, and authoritarian exact opposite of that. Think like dictatorships, like Germany, or even like communist Russia, in that sort of sense. Like you can have both like left-wing authoritarian governments and right-wing authoritarians, but you can also have like libertarian left and libertarian right.
And that's not to say that we still don't have like those who believe that there's still a left and right. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think we know people, we've seen people who are on that clear opposing ends of the spectrum, and I'm just saying, like, now I just feel like there's a more diversified group enough where we can't just say it's left versus right.
Absolutely. And also, like, when you go like down like specific policies or like issues as well, there could also just be like an overlap or even like a switch in positions as well. Like, I know when it comes to like gun control, I would definitely consider myself like more centrist or even like center right on that issue, whereas like everything else, like you would just call me like a straight up like commie or something. But and as well as I assume with like Joram, there's like issues where he's like more left wing than he is more conservative, and vice versa and all that. So you just have to go down like each individual issue. It's not accurate enough just to say this person is left and they only believe in all left wing stuff, or this person's right. They only believe in all right. There's like most people are like a huge conglomeration of like both of those things.
Yeah. Anything else you guys have to say?
I'm just curious as to like, because like you mentioned earlier, a majority of the younger people, we're the majority when it comes to like, if we did vote, we would be the majority, but there's just not enough of us voting. I'm just curious as to like, is this their view on these things as well? Is that the common, or is that like the accepted idea? I hope with like younger people that you don't necessarily have to fall into left or right.
Yeah, and I think that's about it. I'm just gonna say one last thing on this before we move on to Dean's question.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that if there's anything you want to add before I start, or
no, I'm
Okay.
good.
Yeah, I just want to say that whether you're on whatever ideological beliefs are, just we're all in this together. Like for the shutdown and everything, we're all equally affected, no matter what political ideology we're under. So, at the end of the day, we're all just a community that, even though we have different views, we're not against each other. It's just more we're gonna have to work with each other and try to get the best result. For now, the current times being the best result being not having people die from the pandemic and not having people not suffer through losing their jobs, or whatever. Even though we may have different approaches and all that stuff on doing that, we will damn as hell work together on that. Even though there's like the very vocal minority of people who are like, hey, let's not wear masks because masks are bullshit or whatever. Like the most people really are like in this, like, hey, I'll wear a mask, I'll social distance. Maybe some of us will go further when it comes to that, or some people will go less further when it comes to that. But we all want the same result. So yeah, totally agree with both of you guys that it's not like a us versus them thing. It's just one big community. And now we're gonna move on to the next topic. Dean, you're gonna pick one amongst the list we got there.
In the guaranteed or
Whatever you want.
all right. So I randomized earlier and I got number 32.
32.
Is it appropriate for governments to limit citizens' freedom of speech?
Just letting you know, you can't just pick a question you can ask instead of just randomizing it if you want to.
Absolutely, but I like the randomness of it. It keeps me on my toes.
Yeah. Do you guys think?
But then you want to ask the bullshit question? You can. Just letting you know.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just randomizing.
Number 35 looks pretty good. I ain't gonna lie.
Which question?
So 32 is it appropriate for governments to limit citizens' freedom of speech?
No, which question did you want, Paul?
35.
35. Alright. Let's just go on to 32. And
32.
I think I might know what side you're gonna lean on 35, Paul, but alright. Oh shoot, it's me, so I'll go first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, this one's a tough one for me, to be honest.
Did you read this one, actually? Is this your question?
I don't think it is. I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know the one I put was something about religion.
I didn't know we could add stuff. I wouldn't have done it anyways. I just didn't know.
Okay, so a little backstory. One of my last classes at UC Davis was called Constitutional Politics, and this was like one of the last topics we covered, and it was the First Amendment, freedom of speech. And this is where this class we did a lot of debates. So this is like as you can imagine, one of the more contentious things when it comes to freedom of speech, because there's just so many things to cover when you talk about freedom of speech. So freedom of speech can mean like, just me stating my opinion. Like, for example, going back to the Shaq or Michael Jordan question, I could say Shaq has the better dick, and that would be an opinion. That's freedom of speech. Yeah, but he made me sign a non-disclosure, so I can't say.
Oh shit!
Shit.
You can talk about freedom of speech when you talk about hate speech. That's freedom of speech. And this is where I feel like a lot of it draws a gray area, because if you're a traditionalist, when you look at the Constitution, it specifies on there freedom of speech, and I think there should be a certain limit on freedom of speech, especially when it comes to hate speech and those rhetoric, or I feel like it can cause that negative rhetoric that will lead to violence and whatnot. And I just feel like that's for some people, that's like, well, that can lead down a much darker path, because if you start limiting what speech you can say, then the people in charge and be like, oh, you know what, I think that's hate speech, I might, let's censor that and whatnot. And I understand, but I think as a society now, or as a society progresses, I think we should be educated and smart enough to know what type of speech should be limited and what type of speech shouldn't be limited. And I don't want to. I'll let Paul go, but I was about to propose like a counter argument to that, but just in case, I don't know what Paul's argument would be.
Before, I just want to ask something for clarity. So when it comes to like the gray area, how far you would go? Would you consider, like, let's say calling someone the N-word who's black, like calling someone a black person the N-word at work with the R and everything? Would you consider that to be hate speech, or would you consider that to be like that's within the limits of like being okay, or was it like not okay?
I think you have to look at the context, because if
let's say let's say the person's racist and like, hey, I hate N-words. They're all monkeys or something. Would that be within the lines of not okay?
Yeah, I'd put that as the lines of like not okay, because I feel like you're starting to infringe on another person in a sense. I guess that's a proper way to phrase it. And I just feel like you're attacking them, and I feel like anytime your speech either does harm or you attack somebody with it in a harmful way, I feel like there should be a certain limit to the speech that you're doing. Whether free speech doesn't have to be just words; it could be your actions and whatnot.
Yeah, and also like I'm just trying to see like where you draw the line, because some people have different lines on where they draw on this. Obviously, most people would agree like you shouldn't be like, hey, let's kill some N-words today or something. Like that's obviously far beyond the pale of what's okay. And yeah, just want to see where you draw the line. Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
So yeah, mine. I'm like on the for the most part, I agree with Joram, but when it comes to like, is there ever a time where it's appropriate for governments to limit citizens' free speech? I would say no. There will be like 99% of the time, there's like no good reason for governments to limit freedom of speech, even when it comes to like, let's say like hate speech or like racist slurs or even like that, because we can all agree that's bad. And if you're doing that, you're an asshole, and you shouldn't be saying those things. But that doesn't mean you should be imprisoned for that, or have your constitutional rights taken away just because of that. Because the Constitution, when it comes to like freedom of speech, it's not for things like, oh, I think the sky is blue, or I think rainbows are awesome, or let's all be friends. No, things like where everyone agrees on, that's not what freedom of speech is for. Because no one's going to argue against those kinds of things. But when it comes to like very contentious issues, like hate speech, or like clashing political ideologies, or even just saying like, yeah, we should invade this other country, well, that's still kind of pushing it, but you should still have the right to say that. The only time I would draw the line if there's like direct threats of violence, like saying like, I'm going to like punch that person in the face, or I'm going to kill that son of a bitch, then that's where like, okay, that's not good. That's definitely beyond the pale, as you mentioned, Jim. So when it comes to like hate speech as well, I would definitely say like it is if like a boss is saying to one of his employees, like saying the N-word to them if they're black, then that definitely constitutes as like hate speech. That definitely constitutes as a hostile work environment. But I don't think the government should step in to stop that, because as Joram mentioned before, that could lead to a slippery slope where governments can say like, oh, because no one's going to defend the guy who's calling people the N-word. No one's going to say he's like in the right, because he's obviously not. But what if in situations where someone is on, let's say, the left and saying, we need to tax the rich, or the government is corrupt, or like this person of color is corrupt, governments can say, hey, that's hate speech. You shouldn't be saying that. Even if the fact that it's true, governments could like crack down on this and say like, no, you can't do that. That's a slope too far for me, because it's always going to be stuff that's super extreme that no one's going to defend, that people should be saying. But over time, slowly over time, the government will step in and say like, you can't do that. Or even like when it comes to like online companies such as like Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, they also, and there's always the question like whether those companies should be broken up as well to like public utilities or something along those lines. But for now, when they have like the power to like just like block people from saying certain things, or like political ideas, or even like fake news, then no, people should be allowed to say those things, because it's always turned against people who are fighting against like corrupt power in government or in corporations. And government and corporations are always like super like linked hand in hand together when it comes to like corruption. Not everyone obviously, but for the most part it's true. And it always cracks down on people who are like trying to change the status quo and power and all that. So no, I don't think it's appropriate for governments to limit citizens' freedom of speech, even if they're saying abhorrent things. Because I think instead of cracking down on those people, because that's just going to embolden them even more. It's like, oh, the government's cracking down, or people are like stopping me from saying those things, not because I'm a piece of shit and because obviously I'm wrong, but they're doing that because I'm right, and they don't want me spreading the truth and all that. It's always going to make them dig deeper into that hole and just like fight back even stronger. They go for like what's more comfortable for them and what they're most familiar with. I say the most effective counter to hate speech is always just a better argument. Just like debate with them, discuss with them, and show them why that position is wrong. And over time, it's because the right path is never easy. The correct path is always going to be like long and full of like hard work. But just banning that, or just saying like the government stepping like you can't do that, I think that's the easy way out, and also like the easiest way for like tyranny to step in.
I'm sorry, you finished with your thought there, Paul?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I like to ramble a lot.
Just to fall back a little bit. You agree though that if like that person's free speech was going to incite harm, like physical harm to anybody, that's where you would draw the line, correct?
That's where I would draw the line. If there's
Okay. Like that's we're both on the same page on that one. I think, and adding up to what Paul said, I don't really disagree with what Paul said. To add on to what he said, I think as we over time, I think it's over time as more people are informed about. I mean, this is about hate speech. I feel like a lot of that hate speech, it doesn't even. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but for a majority, the social thought or the social opinion on whatever topic it may be, that's going to be hold truth, and that hate speech is just going to be people are just going to know that's just obviously false, not real, and I feel like that hate speech is just going to reinforce that truth opinion more.
What the truth about like why that hate speech is wrong, or
Oh yeah, like why that hate speech is wrong, and I feel like people are gonna know. People are gonna know, like what hate speech is. I hope people are gonna know what hate speech is to make a judgment that that should not be allowed and whatnot.
absolutely, yeah, I agree. Like over time, people will become more informed and are less likely to make that kinds of statements.
Mhm.
Or in the very least, if you're just doing that as a joke, because there's also like
Oh
you know,
yeah, like
jokes are always like pushing the boundaries. They're supposed to make people uncomfortable, and that's why they are funny. So nothing is sacred when it comes to jokes. But yeah, as you mentioned, like over time, hopefully, people will realize, yeah, I shouldn't say these things, or in the very least, just don't say these around certain people of like beliefs, face, skin tone, and all that, or like sexual orientation.
unless unless it's like among us or like friends or something like that, and it's like in a joke in some way, then
Is everyone consents to it and no harm is done.
like just basically know the situation you're in and your surroundings and who you're with.
Yeah.
Because we often forget that a lot of social change it's like a very slow process. Because I don't know how long humans have been living on, definitely more than 2,000 years, and I don't remember how long past that, like the whole BC era were we here, but when it comes to like social change, it's only within like the last 100 years. And as much as we want people to get along and be kind to one another, it's still relatively new in the grand scheme of things. Like with technology, with airplanes, radio, and all that. Same with like women's right to vote, or just believing in the fact that like, yeah, people are individuals. We're all more or less the same. It's just that we have different skin tone. Like even like World War II is like only like 70 years ago. Not even like 100 years ago. That's won't be like another 25 years. But Nazi ideology was that obviously there are superior races, all that. So it's still relatively new in the grand scheme of things.
All right. Well, would that sum this discussion topic?
Yeah. I'm good.
All right. Kenny, your turn, man. Time to ask a question of your choice, or if you want to randomize it, you can randomize it.
Alrighty. As you both know, I'm a fish enthusiast, I guess, or angler.
Okay.
So my question will pertain to my fish. What would you guys do to help with like ocean cleanups?
In other words, reduce like the pollution and all that stuff in the marine, oceans, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Paul, starting this time, right?
Yes.
I think so, yeah. It's pretty difficult for that one, because obviously one person could just say like, hey, just don't litter in the ocean. I say definitely more government regulations when it comes to like dumping or like environmental regulations where corporations can't just like dump stuff wherever they feel like it just because it's cheaper to do it that way instead of like getting rid of it properly. And when it comes to like ocean waste, I can't claim myself an expert. Because my solution would have been the same, just like if it were like on land. It's like don't dump trash or waste in the oceans. Make it so like it's easier for access for people to throw stuff away if you're like an individual person. When it comes to like corporations, definitely more government regulation when it comes to like making sure corporations properly get rid of waste so they're not like polluting the planet, not like dumping into like river, forests, or even like oceans. Yeah, that's all I can really say on that, really, because I'm pretty like pretty anti corporations or like large industries, because I always know that they'll do whatever it takes to save money or like whichever is cheapest and whatever allow them to keep more of a profit. And if dumping into the ocean means like they get to like save like 10 cents more, they'll do that without hesitation. So I think that's like more of a global thing, really. More like a governmental issue where governments should step in and better regulate that kind of thing. And as well, just like going out in the oceans and like cleaning that stuff up. But the ocean is also like a giant place, so it's going to be like pretty difficult to do that because it's not like staying in one fixed location. It's constantly moving, and obviously some other stuff that's has a higher density than water is also just going to like sink. We have no clue how far down that is. Quick question though, isn't there like, because I keep hearing about this like every now and then, isn't there like one place out in the middle of the ocean where there's like a bunch of like trash just like
Yes.
Yes, there is.
The Pacific Garbage Patch, which is the size of Texas.
Yeah, that's what I was told.
I believe it's like 40, 80 miles away from Hawaii too, or something like that.
I wasn't sure if
forget
that
where.
was fake or people were like over exaggerating that, or it's just like there was like a bunch of like little patches everywhere, and people were just like taking pictures and saying like it's one giant patch somewhere. Because that just boggles my mind that how it all concentrates in one spot.
Yeah, it's getting bigger by the day too. It's
that effort where like they had that machine collecting the trash. Is it there or is it in a different location? Or there's that, I think it was that billionaire who's funding that huge like net to basically like collect the trash in the ocean.
Yeah, this is one guy near our age who's doing a big cleanup, making machines and stuff to clean it up. But obviously, it's kind of like trying to.
Is it there at the Pacific Trash Island though, or is that?
That's the big one he's doing. I believe. Okay. He's trying to make the best technology possible to clean it up, but obviously it's trying to fill a bathtub with a hole in it. Basically, it's very, very difficult because it gets bigger all the time, and it's kind of hard to clean it up.
How did it all like get there anyway?
How did it get there? Pretty much, just dumping our shit into the ocean. Just all kind of just swooped up into our area. Just kind of made a nasty, plasticky soup thing with a whole bunch of shit like plastic straws and those little like ring things that around the soda cans that you see. A bunch of those shits and a bunch of other crap.
Is there just like a bunch of like wind currents or like ocean currents that just like direct everything in that certain spot?
I believe it's an ocean current.
It might be a combination of both.
Yeah, probably a combination of
That's
both.
wild.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty nasty. Joram, anything else?
That was yeah. Was that it for you, Paul?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. The chat says that even the plastic-eating microbes are more useful. Oh well. Unfortunately, they say that there's trash and it's a bunch of microplastic that you can't see. So that's very helpful. Yeah, it's a very hard challenge, and hopefully we should be finding a way to get rid of it. But yeah, it's just tough.
So I guess my answer to that, yeah, it's not going to be an easy problem, primarily because it's not just one country that's responsible. to clean the oceans. I feel like um, if you're really gonna make any significant dent into cleaning the oceans and to stop people from littering, it's going to take a global effort, and that that's just a daunting task in its own right to have countries all agree on that. If ways to curb it, I think for me is really focus on um, regulating corporations from dumping into a lot of these oceans, and I'd take it a step further and start looking at different ways where you change some of the packaging on like just everyday items that we get, because a lot of the stuff that's there are just like plastic bags and whatnot that people just toss aside, containers, plastic cups, and all that. I feel like if we can find a way to limit those, I feel like that's one way to help to reduce the trash. But I think a more for me, at least, one that I think will have the most significant impact is to help primarily a lot of those lower income countries, third world countries, because those countries don't have proper sanitation. Majority of those countries will not have proper sanitation and whatnot.
True that.
And a lot of their waste usually just goes straight into the ocean. One big step you can do is, just help those countries, like educate them and, give them a proper infrastructure to make sure that waste doesn't go into those to the oceans, and that they're treated responsibly and whatnot. And then a lot of those coastal cities and a lot of those countries, I feel like they aren't getting regulated enough. People just dumping stuff into the oceans. I feel like those countries can make a difference by doing more to educate and prevent people from doing that. Make the effort to teach your citizens, like, don't throw your trash here. Basically, here's a specific location. Here's trash cans. Throw it here and prevent people from dumping it into the ocean. But yeah, that's at least what I can come up with. But it's not an easy fix, is what Paul said, or as Paul alluded to.
Yeah, anything you want to add, Paul, or anything you disagree with?
Yeah, it's part of the difficulty when it comes to just cleaning up ocean trash, as Joram said, is it's a global effort, and it should be a global effort to help clean it up. Because if you just leave it to one country or just a handful of countries, those countries are gonna be like, I don't want to take all this trash back to our country, because it's gonna create more waste dumps here as well. Especially when it comes to that trash island out in the Pacific. One thing I would also add, though, when it comes to the poorer countries, especially those in the Middle East or the eastern coast of Africa, I think it's also due to the fact that when it comes to U.S. sanctions, U.S. imperialism as well, when it comes to just messing with those countries, taking their natural resources, constantly doing endless wars over there as well, it makes it really hard for those countries to get up on their feet, to actually just focus. Because when you have to worry about constant regime change every couple of years, just because corruption and also meddling U.S. presence as well, it's we really want your resources, so we're just going to declare on you as well. It makes it really hard for a country to focus on peaceful efforts educating your populace or making sure pollution isn't a thing as well. So it's not just individual countries are just oh, we don't know enough or we don't have the infrastructure. It's also other countries making sure they don't have that education, making sure they don't have that infrastructure as well. is also a major factor.
Good thought.
All right. Anything else to discuss concerning this?
No, I'm good.
Paul.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Your turn, Jeff. Time to ask a question of your choice.
Yeah, I got a question. It's about foreign policy issue. The question is for both of you two is, should the U.S. accept refugees from Syria?
Who was the one that went first last time? Was it?
Was it?
me?
I think it was you, Paul. Okay, so I'll go
Yeah,
first.
so I
on
think
this.
Joram goes first on this one.
Alright.
I would say yes, but there has to be a screening process before, we can't just openly accept them in here without, like, a system where we can screen them to make sure, they're not a threat, first of all, but, just for, like, people affected in general, like families and whatnot, I would be open, because the situation, I know it's not in the news as much anymore, but it's still not good over there. There's still constantly there's basically still a war going on over there. I mean, we just don't hear about it because we're not as involved as we once were over there anymore. But there's a lot of countries at stake over there that have a lot of interest, and it's displacing a lot of these, regular families that are supposed to be like living in their homes in Syria that are not. They're just in the middle of some. A majority of them are in the middle of these refugee camps in like the Iraqi desert, I believe, last I checked, and it's just conditions. I remember seeing they're not good. So some of them don't have access to clean water. So they rely on a lot of like aid from the UN and some of these countries, but over time, a lot of these countries have stopped giving aid and whatnot. And
Right.
I feel like we should be taking in some of these people that are at least, like families or children that don't have parents anymore. I feel like these are people that we can't just leave out. I feel like we should be doing our job to help them, and I think bringing them in here is one way we can do that.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Okay. How about you, Paul?
Yeah, I definitely agree when it comes to like taking refugees, especially from Syria or like any other like refugees anywhere out in the world. But especially when it comes like to the Middle East, especially in its relations to the war on terror, because a lot of these countries are messed up because of like Western interference, especially with the United States being the main perpetrator of these wars. Like after 9/11, when we were attacked by members from like Saudi Arabia, we didn't go to war, declare war on Saudi Arabia. We went and declared war in Iraq, a country that didn't attack us. And we did under the thought that like that we're gonna Saddam Hussein had like weapons of massive destruction, or like he's a bad guy. Eventually learning like, yeah, I mean, learning that these things were false. He didn't have weapons of mass destruction. He was a piece of shit, of course, but
the story was BS basically.
Yes. And the same happened with like Pakistan, Afghanistan, parts of like Syria. When also like last year when we pulled out forces away from like our Kurdish allies as well, allowing for like Turkey to like come and just like smash them, even though they were helping us. Even though the Kurds were helping us like fight against ISIS, which also with ISIS, also they weren't there before the United States like came
Went
into the
into
Middle
Iraq.
East.
Yeah.
Terrorist organization. We have like more terrorists now in 2020 than we did back in the height of the Iraq War, because like when because we've been there since like 2003, and if you're constantly like bombing a country, people aren't there like grateful, like, oh yes, they're saving us, they're giving us freedom. No, if you eventually, because like bombs, they don't discriminate between like those civilians or terrorist groups or like
Right.
enemy soldiers. They kill indiscriminately, and sometimes mistakes are made. Sometimes they happen because like people are pieces of shit and think like, oh, this is kind of fun, bombing random civilians. They don't discriminate when it comes to that. And if you're just like a random civvy and you learn that, yeah, the United States like murdered your dad, you're gonna be like, what? Fuck this! I'm gonna join like a terrorist organization and take up arms against the United States. So, long story short, we're like with the war on terror, ironically, has created more terrorists than take them out, and ISIS is a result of that. How that relates to Syria is also like the same thing. When we're constantly like stirring up trouble in the Middle East and with Syria, we're constantly creating more terrorist groups. We're constantly like aiding in civil wars and disrupting people's lives. Because people, refugees, they're not leaving because like, oh, yeah, I want to like get rid of everything I know in life and just like go somewhere else. Some people are like that, obviously, but most people don't want to like go to like a different country where like people speak the different language or have different customs or ways of thinking and ways of life. People don't like going to like completely new environments. They do that because they have to. So when it comes to like refugees, yes, take them in, and obviously there's going to be a screening process. We're not going to take in people willingly. But I think it's the United States' responsibility because of their role in like disrupting peace in the Middle East. I think the U.S. should take in refugees just because it's their responsibility for what they did.
Alright. Yeah, no, that's a really good in-depth view.
Okay. Is that the end of that topic?
Yeah, I've covered what I need to say.
Okay, so just a heads up, we've done one round of topic questions on all that stuff, where we discuss things, and we're now an hour and 22 minutes in. So my question for you guys is that, do you guys want to call it here, or do you guys want to do one more round of questions?
I'm interested to hear what you want. A question 30 to fall. Mills or ABG?
That's 35, I think.
No, he got changed because they removed the questions that we already did.
Yeah.
I see. Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's now question 30.
Yeah, I genuinely want to hear what Paul has to say.
Question because it has been like in an hour and a half.
You guys want to do? I want to do one more round because I feel like even though we talked for like an hour and 20, I feel like we didn't really go as much as we can.
Definitely not, because I think like the first 40 minutes was just like still doing like introduction.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys want to do one more round? Sounds
Yeah,
good?
I'm down for one more round.
All right, we're going to go back to the guaranteed question. Next question is going to be: is the problem the government? Because when you ask, your typical American, or usually libertarians fall under this ideology more, where they're like, the government is so corrupt, they're so bad, they don't listen to the people. So, you know what? Let's just try to decrease the government's power as much as possible. In other words, have a small government instead of a big government. And we'll be a lot happier that way. And, that way we have more freedom over our lives and all that stuff. And once we have all that, once we have freedom and stuff, we'll, we won't have as many problems. What do you guys believe when it comes to government? Is it the problem?
So I'll go first on this.
Yeah, you can go.
Yeah.
So, yes and no. And that's like with an asterisk. Yes, the problem is government. If the government is corrupt, which U.S. definitely is, on both sides with like both Democrats and Republicans, they're both like incredibly corrupt. Like it goes when people talk about like the swamp, it's there. That phrase is there for a reason. There's like a left-wing swamp and there's a right-wing swamp, and they're both incredibly like sniffing their own farts and all. Yeah, let's take money from people and just like think about enriching ourselves. So yes, the government is at fault. The problem is with government, but the problem is also with private corporations, with large industries, just like corrupting that government. So it goes hand in hand there. I disagree with the idea of just like small government. It depends on the issues. It depends on like the individual policies and issues. There are some parts where I want a big government, and other issues where I want the government to fuck off and just like, no, this is mine. This is my life. I don't want you meddling in this. So when it comes to corruption, yes, the problem is with the government. Why things have been declining and stagnating as they are here in the United States. But problem is also with corporations corrupting that very governmental structure. So yeah, that's pretty much like short of it right there.
Okay. Joram?
I'd probably be a yes and no, but more on the yes side here. Because as much the government may be the problem, but there are moments where, they're going to end up being the solution too. So I'll get that out of the way. But I think for the most part, I do think it is the problem, but not because of that general notion that they're overly corrupt and whatnot. I mean, they are. I mean, there's no hiding the fact that a lot of what the government, why they do things, or these politicians that were supposed to have voted in do things, is because they're in it for the interest of whoever is supporting them with the biggest paycheck and whatnot. And I feel like that's the major problem. Like, I want to take the current situation we have when it comes to like the stimulus package right now that they're trying to pass in Congress and the White House and whatnot. They both sides have agreed that there needs to be a comprehensive package passed. And just a few months ago they passed that 3.2 trillion or 2.2 trillion coronavirus relief package. And now they're arguing over, let's pass another one, but they can't seem to agree on something when just a few months ago, it was so easy for them to pass an aid to help a lot of people that are still struggling with the effects of the coronavirus and are continually still struggling with the effects of the coronavirus. I feel that government is the problem because most of the time these politicians, on both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat, and I've been very vocal about it, they're just not. I feel like a lot of them don't really care for what their constituents voted them in for. A majority of the time they're there, like a lot of these older politicians, they're there years on end, I feel like, constantly getting voted back into their seat. And I don't think anything's changed. If we vote them in, I feel like things are supposed to get better, but they just haven't gotten better here for the country. And I feel like that constitutes that it's a conclusion you can draw that government is the problem. The officials that we have in there, they're not solving the problem. They're just basically taking up space there. And I feel like unless we clean house and get fresher ideas in there, I feel like government will continue to be the problem. That's
I mean,
that's my point.
one thing I'll say about like the stimulus package that happened during the middle or like the summer of 2020, why that seemed so easy to pass was not so much that it was helping regular people. It was more like it was helping bailing out the corporations, bailing out the airline industry, bailing out like shipping companies and tourism and all that. But not so much as like it was like helping regular Americans, because we only last time we got like a stimulus check of like $1,200, and that's not everyone got that. There's like a percentage of people who got that. It was mostly just like crumbs for the working class, the middle class, and whereas like large corporations got like a massive bailout. And since those corporations are paying or bribing Democrats and Republicans, that's why it seems like so easy back then. And the reason why it's not so much now is because the election is just around the corner on November 3rd. It's just like only within a couple weeks. At first, Trump didn't want to do a stimulus package just because like he's a fucking idiot and just wanted to focus only on the
election. Oh, okay, yeah. The Supreme Court nomination.
Yeah, the Supreme Court nomination. He only wanted to focus on that. And when he mentioned that, the stock market like completely like dropped off a cliff, and people were like, "Oh fuck no," and all that. And he got a lot of backlash from it. Now he's like saying like contradicting himself now, like, "Oh no, I mean like I'm down to do a deal with Democrats, just like bring like a direct check for like the American people on my desk. I'll sign that right now. All right, come on, like Nancy Pelosi, come on, like Chuck Schumer." And now Nancy Pelosi is saying like, "No, I don't want to do that." And she gave away her plan right there when she did that interview with like Wolf Blitzer yesterday.
Oh yeah, she was
when she mentioned like, no, it's like she said like part of it's not enough, but the main thing though is when she's like, I don't want checks going out to people with like Trump's name on it, and that's when she revealed like, yes, this is political, because if there's any stimulus that comes out right now while Trump is still president, Democrats fear that's going to give Trump a boost in the polls.
Yeah.
And help them win. And even though that's ridiculous, and chances are Biden is still going to like win handedly, it's all just like a political game to them. They don't care about the American people. They just want power. That's all they really want. So that's why it's like, yeah, the problem is with government because of corruption, because like playing all these political games, because like Democrats, Republicans, they both don't give a shit about you or I, about the regular person.
And jumping onto what Paul said there, like, I maybe this is a very like optimistic view, or like maybe I'm living in a fairy tale world, I guess, when it comes to this. But shouldn't it not be that way? Like, we voted these guys in there to, so that we have a voice in like solving stuff like this. They should it in a perfect world, something like that, like stimulus package. It shouldn't be something that you should be playing political games with here.
Like normally when we think of when we're like younger, we're thinking like, oh yeah, adults are leaders of the world. Obviously, they're looking out for me. Obviously, they're like doing the best they can to look out for like the American people. But over time, when people don't pay attention, because like a democracy, one of the greatest requirements to have a functioning and successful democracy is to have an educated populace. And I don't mean educated in as like having a college degree, being like super smart like math and the sciences, but educated in the fact that you are paying attention to what your leaders are doing. And people just
like the issues and whatnot that are going on.
And I say this probably happened after World War II, when FDR like passed the New Deal, and we had Truman, we had Eisenhower. Like, these were people that were like generally looking out for like the American people, and they held that trust that like, yeah, we will work hard for the regular person. And so when you trust someone to do the job, when you trust the government that they will look out for your interests, you're not going to scrutinize them as much. You're not going to pay attention as much to what they're doing because, like, okay, I have enough shit on my plate already as a regular person. I have like my own worries. I have like work, my relationships. I have like my own drama in my life. I don't have time to like focus on that. So I'm going to trust the people that we elected that they will do the right thing. And over time, people get in who aren't looking out for like regular people's best interest, and they're going to take a little bit more and get away with it. Take a little bit more, a little bit more over time, until eventually it becomes like very common, where it's the norm, where corruption is like, yeah, of course, this is how it is, just what we do. And people are like, how the fuck did this happen? It's because we stopped paying attention. It's because we just went with the lazy route, like, does the person have a D or an R next to their name? Or like, when we're voting, and I've been guilty of this when I was like younger too, of just like being in favor of like certain politicians, just like, oh yeah, I heard his name once or twice, or I heard that policy go on the radio like once or twice while I was in the car picking my nose at a red light. It's like, yeah, I'll vote for that. I don't know what it's about, but I heard about it. Like, radio told me to vote yes on this thing. I guess I'll vote yes. And that's not what an educated populace is doing. They should be studying up on the policies and looking to see, like, paying attention even after their leaders are elected.
And just jumping onto that, that's why, like, I understand if, like, I know there's people out there that are like, you know, like, yeah, I'm voting because, like, I am a Democrat. They'll just vote pure Democrat and whatnot, but not know what the issues are. And that's why I tell people that, you know, vote knowing the issues. Don't vote out of pure emotion and whatnot. Just vote like going into especially in like national elections. Yeah, like they're important, but I like in terms of local elections, I feel like that's where the most change is. Vote in a lot of these local elections knowing that what the issues are, and then make your decision over them. Don't just vote out of pure, like, you know, emotion, or just because you support you're a Democrat, you know, just vote blindly into what the Democrats or the Republicans or whatever party is supporting.
Let me just ask you guys a question that's like very related to this. So one or a few ideas to make a government that we can trust more at the very least is that what if instead of worrying about, you know, who's bidding like Nancy Pelosi or who's bidding Donald Trump is doing in favor of, what if we do something like, one, we have clean elections, meaning that when the candidate receives money, they can only receive money from their constituents or their, you know, the citizens of America, instead of getting money from, you know, like the fossil fuel industry or the health insurance industry or insert, you know, huge industry here. And two, we just make it so that, you know, we stop things like lobbying, where people can just be like, hey, you know, like, you know, I represent this industry, and then, you know, if I give you X amount of money, you should do me a favor when you're in office. You know, like, should we do things to get rid of that? Maybe even going as far as to adding it to the Constitution as an amendment. Do you think that would make people care more about learning about what the issues are and learning and just being more educated and more willing to vote and participate in democracy if they feel like their votes aren't, like, the people that vote in aren't going to be influenced by, like, you know, money or whatever?
I'd totally be open to that. I think if you eliminate those huge corporations from donating and the lobbyists, then yeah, you really do leave it to the hands of the citizens. You're not putting, like, what do you call it? You're not, like, restricting, like, campaign donations, right, from people. That's not what you're saying, right?
I'm saying that the donations would be from, like, the American people themselves, not from you know, like,
so, like,
representing corporations.
Like a corporate entity. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
then yeah, I'd totally be fine with it. But when you say, because the problem is, if you have celebrities that want to like donate or something like that, or the higher end of the financial spectrum, they want to donate. I feel like that's where it's going to be harder to draw, and I don't think you should limit how much they donate, because in a sense, their donation is in a sense, it's kind of like free speech, basically. Them voicing, I'm donating this because I support this person, and that's their opinion why they support this person. I feel like that's where it kind of gets shaded, but I think eliminating those corporate entities and the lobbyists from that equation, I think would be a better functioning way to hold a lot of these elections, I guess, more accountable is the word, I guess, that could fit that description. Yeah.
I mean, I disagree. I think there should be a cap, because if you leave it to like no cap, large corporations can still donate anyways. They'll just do it as like through an individual, and just say like, for someone like let's say like an individual, let's name him someone like a dumb name, like a Mike Bloomberg, something like that. He decides like, I'm gonna decide to donate like $20 million as an individual, not as a corporation, as an individual. That's my free speech rights. If you see in your campaign donation page that someone donated like $20 million, you're not gonna be like, oh, I mean, I guess he's some guy who he just really likes my campaign. No, you're gonna look into that guy and like, who the fuck is donating this much money? You're gonna look into that and you're like, oh, this person's donating. Ah, I see you. Now, hey, you want to talk? I'm down to talk, and all that. So, I disagree. Sure, when money is free speech, that's a hard pill for me to swallow. I mean, yeah. Actually, I take that back. Money is free speech. Yeah, what you decide to do with that money. But if it gets to the point where it's absurd, like 20 million versus like $5, if someone were to like donate to you $5 million, say like the paltry $5, who are you most likely going to listen to? You're gonna be more inclined to listen to the guy who like donated the $5 million. So, when you mentioned with donations, I'm open to the idea of like, or not open, I'm definitely in support of public funding of elections and keeping like private corporations out of it. And campaigns should be transparent where they're getting their money from. I think more importantly though is when it comes to like educating the populace, is completely doing over with how we do debates in the United States. Because in places like the United Kingdom, whenever someone is running for office, or a party, because it's different there since they don't run individuals, they run parties. Like the Labour Party,
Yeah,
or like the Tories and all that.
They have coalitions there too, so it's more complicated there.
It's voted based on party. But what they do with the format is that the media gives politicians time to just like talk about their policies, and they can go on for however long they want. They can like talk for hours and about certain policies and what they want to implement, with like no ad breaks or anything like that. So giving people time who like want to learn about these things but don't necessarily want to sit down and read through like hundreds of articles about what the nuances are, they can just sit down and listen to what everyone has to say. Whereas in the United States, with our debate format, here's like a very complex and nuanced topic you have to talk about. You have 20 seconds to respond. And that's fucking stupid. Like, you can't go through all that in 20 seconds. Especially when people are trying to like buy for time. That's insane. So I think changing our debate format is just as effective, if not more so, when it comes to like educating the populace about certain ideas and policies.
Okay. Anything you want to add or disagree with there, Joram?
Yeah, just to add on with what Paul said, I agree with when he said that campaigns, I feel like, need to be more transparent on where they get their money from, because
Yeah.
I guess the really major difference me and Paul have here is with the campaign donations, like the capping and whatnot of it. But I think if you make them transparent and people see who's donating to you, at least with like the general public, if we see that so and so is donating to you and we know so and so's like sketchy, I think we're gonna be inclined to at least know what you're all about. Is what I'm saying. I feel like if we with campaigns, if you make them more transparent with where they're getting their funds, I think it would be a much more accountable election.
So basically, what you're saying is, like, if Eric Trump was running for president one day, and then he says like, "Hey, I'm gonna fight for you guys. I'm gonna fight for the people. I'm gonna lower your taxes." Blah blah blah. And then you find out he got a letter from the secret evil billionaires club saying, "Well, ha ha ha, lower our taxes," and then raise the taxes on everyone else. Then people would be like, "Okay, well, fuck that guy."
Yeah,
and then
like that. Yeah, I don't necessarily think there needs to be a cap on the donations. Like if you're a billionaire,
but that goes back to like hoping that most voters or most people who are going to be likely voters are paying attention.
Yeah. We come full circle in a sense. What Paul mentioned earlier, and what I mentioned, like we need to educate the public. They need to be educated on the issues and who they're voting for, basically.
Paul, just to clarify, what cap do you think would be sufficient? Do you think it's $1,000, $10,000? What do you think the cap would be? $5 million?
I say probably like $1,000 as a cap in my eyes, because most normal people, like the vast majority of the country, are not going to be willing to like donate anything close to $1,000 for a campaign, except unless you're like loaded. But anything more than that, then just like that's pushing it. The reason why I advocate for a cap though, instead of like one that's not, because as going back, like you require an educated populace in a democracy. But if people aren't paying attention, even if it's just like some people are gonna be like blow the whistle, like, hey, this guy is getting donations from this company, this corporation, in like the veil of like millions of dollars, but people are like, I'm gonna vote for the guy anyway. Then that's just transparency, like, hey, I'm doing this corrupt thing and you all know about it, but people don't seem to care anyway, so I'm just gonna do corrupt things anyway, and they're going to listen to those corporations. Whereas if there's a cap, you close that window entirely of there being a chance for corruption, and politicians more likely to listen to those guys and instead focus more on their policies and their ideas and listening to regular people. Because we don't really need politicians to listen to like companies or corporations, because to some extent they do, but not to the degree it is now, where I forgot what the numbers were. It's like 90% of policies that corporations push for are like almost always addressed, whereas most issues that regular people push for almost never get addressed because they're like listening to like corporations. So if you just leave it so like there's no cap, but make it transparent, but you don't have that educated populace, if you don't have a media that cracks down on that, because they're also just as guilty. They're also because they're also propaganda wings for both Democrats and Republicans and these corporations. So they're not. You also need a media that's willing to tell the normies that are watching the news. They're just like, hey, this is happening. Otherwise, it's just gonna be like, hey, there's transparency, but no one gives a shit. So we're just gonna do it anyway. We're just gonna be corrupt right in front of you instead of like hiding in the shadows and making. We're just gonna be outright corrupt. And he's like, well, let's do it anyway.
Would that be I guess, a problem with like the public then?
It's definitely going to be a problem with the public.
What I'm getting from that is just like, wow, no one just really gives a shit.
So Paul, would you argue that in order to have an educated public that would care about the issues, would you argue that's better for everything to be, publicly financed first, and for us to have a cap on donations in order to reach that goal of having an educated public?
I think so, yeah. But
okay.
I think how much the population pays attention is dependent on how well people's standards of living are. If things are going well, I would argue people are not as likely to pay attention. When things go to shit, though, that's when people start paying attention. Because you know that quote, like,
it's like that.
It's like men are born from bad times, but bad men are born from good times.
I was thinking more of the quote from like The Dark Knight with the Joker, where the chips are all when the chips are down and all those civilized people, like they'll start eating each other out when things go to basically shit.
So it's always going, in my opinion, it's always going to be people aren't going to be paying attention 100%. As I said, when things are good, people are less likely to pay attention. When things are bad, that's when everyone's eyes are looking. And I don't want to get to the point where we keep doing that, like, back and forth between good and bad time. So I want to just, like, stop it right there. So there's, like, no chance of corruption. Even when people aren't paying attention, is what I'm getting at.
Okay. So just to wrap up this topic, would you guys both agree on, however, a constitutional amendment to get money out of politics?
I would.
Yeah.
I'd support
definitely.
it.
Okay.
100%.
It's great. We have agreement on there. Even though you guys don't agree on 100% of things, at least we both agree that corruption is bad and we shouldn't have it in any form.
Yeah. I feel like tonight we've been, like, agreeing pretty much like 90%.
Yeah.
I think we're in agreement to the principle. It's just how to get to that principle, I think, is where we have differences.
Definitely. I mean, that's like how it's like with things.
All right. So moving on. Now you guys get to pick a topic, and I'm assuming you guys want to pick that the number 28 right now. It is.
Okay. All right, Paul. I'm interested in
ABGs.
Yeah.
So the question is, MILFs or ABGs, or how about GILFs?
Definitely not. Definitely not GILFs.
Yeah, just erase GILF, okay? Me and Paul are, unless Paul's into it. I mean, he chose Michael Jordan.
He said he can say no to the Michael Jordan dick sucking thing. Possibly.
I was strategizing who had the smaller dick. All right.
Okay. Alright, Paul. I think Paul gets the first crack at this question.
I could have sworn I won first last time.
Oh, shoot. Okay, then I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't mind going first in this one.
Okay.
Sure. I'm gonna go with ABG. Like, is one. I'm just saying.
Asian baby girls, for those of you who don't know, pretty much like the girls that usually dye their hair and like go to raves and shit and party and stuff.
I'm blonde, go to raves, get drunk.
Yeah. Is there anything missing to that stereotype or no? That's usually the profile.
Just just personal preference aside, one, they're younger. They're probably going to be within our age group, and I just feel like I would just choose them over the MILF. I'm just gonna go with there.
That
Wow,
to me,
hot
this
take
is,
from
to me, this isn't a hard question for me. Might be for you, Paul, but to me, it's not. A hard
Oh,
question.
it's not a hard question at all. It's really easy.
Okay.
I know what my choice is.
Okay.
All right. Is that it for you, Joram?
Yeah, that's it for me.
So pretty much they're younger. That's the
Yeah.
entirety of it. And the more.
At least, okay.
Hello.
A majority of
Alright,
the
you
ABGs,
got 'em.
at least. A majority. Okay. Let me. No, I'm not done yet, Jim. Never mind. Let me back up.
He's trying to defend himself.
I'm not saying that I'm a creep that goes after younger people. I'm just
Keep
saying.
talking. Anything you say is.
You just dig your hole deeper, bro.
I'm just saying APGs that are like around our age tend to be better looking than MILFs. I'm just saying that.
All right.
That's my
So
personal.
they're younger and they're generally more attractive.
They're literally called mothers I'd like to fuck, though. So of course they're gonna
Ooh.
be attractive.
Here's the real debate. We've been waiting for all night.
I see Paul likes it old and saggy, so
What? Easy. My answer's easy. 100%. Definitely the MILFs. Definitely the MILFs.
I had a
Maybe
feeling.
Get the fuck out.
I'm just saying, if he, I just don't. I don't see them as attractive, Paul. That's just me.
Hey, look, alright? They're like a diamond in the rough. They're like a needle in the haystack, alright? You don't always come across, like, attractive older women. Most of the time, they just, like, the tyranny of time always gets to them eventually.
That's
But,
very poetic, Paul.
but there are some older women, they're like, holy fucking shit. I'd love to do the dirty with her. I'd love to, like, make sweet, sweet love to her. Just like, hey, there's a young man here that's willing to, like, spend time with you. I'm down. Because, personal preference, I think I've always leaned towards, like, older women. Personally, throughout my life, I always found out, like, more attractive. Or just, like, or at least that's the idea of them. Because you know for a fact they're more likely to have more experience than younger girls. So they know what they want sexually. But in life, they also know what they want in their own professional or even like personal lives. They know what they're aiming for. And I like that in a woman. I like knowing that she knows what she wants. When it comes to ABGs, though, yeah, sure, they know what they want. There's always, and you always know that those girls from like those Asian girls, you know, in high school. Yeah, they're like kind of sweet, kind of cute, kind of like studious. But then all of a sudden they go through like college and they go through like a 180 transformation. All of a sudden they're like dye their hair, they get like piercings. They're like, fuck yeah, I love drinking and partying all the time. And for me, I just never really got into that. I've never been to like heavy into drinking. I've never been heavy into partying. So for ABGs, I would just get fucking tired. I'm just like, I don't want to do this shit. I just want to be at home, chilling, playing RuneScape or TF2 or something like that. Or like studying.
And
studying
you think a MILF's gonna want to do that?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay.
And
I
sometimes
just want to clarify there.
But they're also MILFs are not as likely to go out and party, but they're more likely to like have like just like a chill one-on-one time. Because when it comes to like MILFs, chances are time has got to them. They're not as like
You're making it seem like they're really old.
no, I mean like when it comes to like personality or like just the view on the world, they're not as like willing to like yeah, things are like great. It's party 24/7. Like they're more down to earth, tend usually. And whenever I do go, whenever like, oh man, I want to search up some porn. MILFs never fail for me. If I'm like not sure what I want to look for, I was like searching MILFs. I'm like, okay. Now there are some where like, for me though, I ain't a MILF because I don't want to stick my dick in her. I just want to like for her, maybe just like call her ma'am and like, hey, how's your day? Just like, oh, spending time with the kids, awesome. All right, have a good day. But then there are some older women. You're like,
Dang, Paul doesn't say wham bam. Thank you, ma'am.
not all.
Disgrace.
You're giving them a life story, Paul.
For me personally, they wouldn't count as a MILF to me. They may count as a MILF to someone else. There's definitely someone out there.
Paul, that scenario you gave there, I'm pretty sure that's a starter for like 90% of pornos.
Are you sure though? I thought 90% of pornos were like a plumber or like, hey,
What are you doing,
wanna see-
stepmom?
You're a plumber in this scenario, Paul.
you're a lifeguard or like, hey, you want to check out my knife collection?
Oh.
Oh no, my plumber's uniform fell off.
Hey, how you doing, man? I want to see my bone baguette.
Exactly.
You see Paul with like the crappiest looking mustache.
I can't even like grow like a mustache really. I don't got those genes in me. That's why I was just shaved. It's better that way. But for me, yeah, MILFs they just have like that experience and just like there's just something about them that attracts me to them.
Yeah, I respect your decision there. I had a feeling you were gonna go for MILFs.
I thought we were just doing the hit and run, but I guess we're
Paul,
playing it for long term.
Paul went for it. Yeah, he wants for the long term. I'm going for just the hit and run. Like I'm just saying, there's more of them. It's not as hard to find them.
Hey, I mean, if she just wants to hit and quit it, I ain't gonna argue. But
I could just imagine like, that was
picturing him in the MILF on the porch. There's
it's like that was pleasurable. Would you mind getting me my glasses, please?
no, we took off
the lemonade.
We took off gills. A little too far, mate.
For the record, is there anyone here who are pro gilfs? Speak now.
Dean, where are your...
Paul, don't be afraid.
That's too far for me. There's like...
If they're a Granny around 45, then fuck it.
If there's like an elf girl who's like 5,000 years old, does he count as a gilf? Then
No.
alright, I'll do it.
They have different lifespans, so no.
Alright.
Yeah, Paul, stop bending the rules.
Hey, I'm just saying, alright. If that counts, then yeah, okay. But for the most part, no. No gilfs for
There
me.
are some young grandmas, like, you know.
That is true. There are like
earliest.
This is one kid in middle school. His grandma is like 28 at the time.
So, does that count as an
I'm just like, wow.
technically yes.
Yeah. She's technically a grandma, and you know.
like
This
like
kinda
let's say like yeah, so like let's say we're at Crossroads, Paul, like we'd be like, yo, Paul, I think that's an ABG, so I'd take care. Then Paul's like, no, she's a gilf, I'll take care. Like, no,
Wait, well,
Paul.
hold on. I'm gilf.
The MILF and daughter
Putting
ABG
choices
combo.
on my porch. I don't appreciate this, alright? You're putting it on my plate. I'm like, nah, dude.
Bro, instead of having lemonade on the porch, you're gonna be having boba, bro. Think about it.
Yeah, Paul, who wants
Okay.
who wants tea squeezed with lemons?
Oh yeah, that's also like another knock against ABGs for me. I'm not a fan of boba.
I'm not a fan of boba either, Paul. But
They
for crying out loud, Paul,
they
it's
would
not.
hate.
It's not about what they like, Paul. It's what you
You know what?
Hey, it's not just the sex for me though. It's also like that personal connection that I also crave.
I think it's safe to say me and Paul went into this question thinking other things.
Okay, I want everyone else's tanks because I know this podcast was mostly Paul and Joram, but for this one thing, Dean, Kenny, Jeffrey,
Well,
MILFs or
I'm
ABGs?
Team MILFs.
MILFs for both sex
I think I've
and
said that.
relationship, right?
Yeah.
That's
I
a
think-
wise man right there.
I think I've said this in like episode 2.
What about you, Kenny? Oh wait, check episode 2 on YouTube. Yeah, what about you, Kenny? Hello?
Can you want duck?
All right, Jeffrey, what are you? MILFs or ABGs?
Hmm.
I'm in the middle for them, to
I
be honest.
So you can go
I
with
mean-
either.
Yeah.
yeah, I would say I'd go with either, but like the same reasons that Paul chose MILF. I kind of have not all the same reasons, but a good handful of the same reasons why I would go with MILF. I'm gonna stick with Kenny as well. I kind of have like a.
Let's say you
middle
have to pick
spectrum.
one. You have to
If
pick
you
one.
want me to just pick one,
Yeah.
I
He's gonna-
think
he's gonna
I'm
choose
gonna
ABG.
go. I'm gonna go with MILF.
You
about you,
disappoint me, Jeffrey.
No,
Me?
wise man.
I'm just kidding.
At least in this
Jeffrey.
circumstance.
No, Joram, you disappoint me.
What about you, Kenny? For if you have to pick one. All right.
I'm not sure.
How about you, Jim?
I'll pick for the hidden quit it. I'll pick
Right.
the ABG.
Really?
Thank you. Thank you. I
choose
thought-
MILF.
I
I
thought
thought
you said
I
also relationships.
thought I was the only reprobate here.
Kenny, just as a suggestion, your name is drinking.
I am physically more attracted to ABGs.
If I were
But-
to do like an apt comparison, I would say like MILFs. If you find an actual MILF that's like aged well throughout time, they're like I would say they were like a fine wine that you would love to drink.
Anyway,
You're like,
I was like,
where are you going with this, Paul?
hey, it's man's name's drinking. I'm just trying to
So-
say. It's like
so
a
yeah,
fine.
for the one time, I pick ABGs because just find them more attractive. But then for relationships, I would probably pick the MILF because
We're not
he-
doing this for relationships.
I
though.
know. But
Okay.
since Paul's pitching a whole life story how they got together
I know. I'm like,
and got married, for the
Hey,
sake of that, I'll pick MILF because
you prepared for this one topic, didn't you?
No, this is from the heart. All right,
yeah,
I'm a
the
passionate
ABG
man.
lifestyle will get tiring really quick for me.
It
Because I'm
will
like
get-
Paul.
Because I'm not. If I'm just gonna like hit it and quit it, I'm like sure. But even then, I'd like to have like a conversation, at least just like get to know while we're like cuddling, because cuddling is very important. You need that. And I'm not gonna just like cuddle in silence, just like. So, what's your hobbies?
I think.
I like partying. I'm like, well, all right.
Well, if she wants us to go animalistic on that shit, I'll pick ABGs. I don't care about the talking. I'll just be like, all right, let's get this over with.
Yeah.
Hey, I
Paul,
need my-
if they
hey, I
start
need my-
talking, Paul, that's when you leave, Paul.
I need my cuddling. All right.
Why do I feel like you'll have these awkward moments when you get the chance, Paul? I don't know why.
It happens with Paul with everything.
And Paul's gonna be in the middle. Is like, do I call you mom or no?
If you want Paul's story during his first time, check our episode 6. I think it's episode 6 for our Japan episode. You can find the story there. It's like 3 hours in or something. But all right, yeah. Me and Joram are the only ones who pick ABGs, man. We're alone in that.
Bro, I think.
I'm not saying most are bad, but I'm just saying I would prefer.
I'm not. Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not
if you had
saying
to
those
pick,
are
of
bad.
course, it's either one
Yeah.
or the other.
Yeah, yeah.
For hit and quit it, it's whatever. There's no pick for me. But for,
I just think for like hit it and quit it, I'd have more fun with MILFs anyway than with ABGs.
To each their own, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, each their own. All right, next we'll move on to my question, which will be, so we're gonna talk about ideology real quick. So,
Okay.
Paul, when it comes to ideology, you would describe yourself as a socialist, right?
Yes,
Or like a Bernie Sanders type, plus other things like worker-owned co-ops and some other things, right?
This is on the guaranteed topics, right?
Yes.
Okay.
kind of. For the longest time, I would consider myself like a Bernie Sanders type social democrat, but
Mhm.
this has only been like in the last like couple of months now where I'm like, okay, fuck it, I'm ready for like going like full on like socialism, as my ideology.
Okay. And just to clarify, that means you do not believe in a mixed market system where you get the best from capitalism and the best from socialism. You believe in a pure socialism model, correct?
For the most part, I mean, I think there should be like some mixed market stuff because there are just some things that you shouldn't socialize. But when it comes when my focus is on socialism, it's mostly just more focused on like worker rights, because eventually over time, if you just leave that to like social democracy, corporations or like governments will try to like erode that. So in order to like combat against that, I would be in favor of like worker-owned co-ops. You know, the whole socialist own the means of production when it comes to workers, and democratizing the workplace. So same with like the idea of like unions, like workers have a say in how much they get paid, but they also share a stake in the company as like shareholders and all that, or like even have like a seat at a table with the CEOs, because they're the ones that are the backbone of companies, so they should have like a far greater say in the work as well, or the working conditions and their benefits.
All right.
So
let me just stop right there if you want to continue. I'm just trying to get like a feel for the audience, like where you're at politically. So basically, full on socialist, and you believe workers should have more freedom and democracy in the workplace. Would that be accurate? Okay.
Yes.
And Joram, would it be accurate to call you a capitalist, but you believe in some regulation when it comes to like, you know, just for the safety of the population or
Yeah.
Okay. Is that an accurate description for you? And you don't believe in...
That's an accurate description.
You don't believe in any like post-capitalist beliefs, such as, you know, like the worker-owned co-op system that Paul was describing earlier. You
Can define the worker. The
basically, in a pure capitalist model, let's say one person want to start a business. He owns that business, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna hire workers, and I'm gonna be their boss, and I'm gonna give them the pay that that I'm gonna pay them. Like, let's say the minimum wage is $15, so I'll pay them like $15. Maybe if I want to pay them a little more, I'll pay them a little bit more, and all the profits that we make off that business, I keep, but obviously I pay them whatever I pay them. And in a worker-owned co-op, the six of us starts a business, and then when we hire people into our business, they get about an equal share of the profits we make. So if we hire like your cousin, he will get like 1/7 of the profits that we make, basically. And then
okay.
Yeah. So none of us really like owns the entire thing. It's just that we kind of like buy into it together and we share it. And that's a post-capitalist idea.
I tend to lean more towards the first scenario you gave.
Is that an accurate description of work on co-op? That's to your liking, Paul, by the way, or is it missing something that that it is not really true or whatever?
Partially, yes. As long as like the workers, the employees themselves are able to have like a large say in the direction of the company, then yeah, that's where I'd be leaning towards. So they would also like get a large or a good percentage of the profits as well.
Okay, so the reason why we're bringing that up is because I want to talk about why you think other ideologies are incorrect. Because there's a whole bunch of systems. Like, for example, like Joram's a capitalist and Paul is a socialist, but it's like a mixed market system where you have the best of both, called social democracy. And social democracy is basically countries like the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and to a lesser extent Canada. Whereas in a socialist country, I don't know a big example of a pure socialist country. Paul, do you know of any?
No, I don't.
Okay. A lot of people like to point at Venezuela, but then that's a whole different can of worms. Honestly, it's a lot more authoritative, and it's not an accurate representation of what Paul believes. A lot of conservatives kind of bring that up in like debates and stuff, and. And then there's even talk of communism, which none of us really believe in. But Donald Trump's trying to hint that Joe Biden's a commie, which no one believes, even communists. Like, communists are like, no, what the fuck?
Definitely not. It's barely even a centrist.
And conservatives don't even believe that, which is why he's not really doing very well in the polls right now. Yeah, so we just the discussions can be why you think your ideology is the way to go compared to socialism, capitalism, communism, fascism, Marxism, and social democracy, or whatever else there is in the world. And yeah, just discuss and give your takes.
Do you want to
Paul,
go
I
first or
believe.
you want me?
I believe you get first take at this one.
All right. So I already explained why I'm a socialist. So I guess I'll explain why I think that's the route to go. For the longest time, I would consider myself to be a social democrat. The belief that through the electoral system, that we could regulate change into companies from the government. But I've come to realize over time, even when popular ideas are implemented and regulated, eventually over time, through several decades and years, corporations will have a handle on government figures and will try to erode some of those popular programs, like with Social Security, and even in the UK with the NHS, that even though it's been incredibly popular ever since after the end of World War II, and even though the Conservative Party hasn't been openly against, or hasn't been openly saying they want to privatize the NHS, they still want to do it. And eventually over time, if you cut enough pieces off, eventually that program will become really weak and it won't be as effective anymore. So why I think socialism is the way to go is because it takes away from the powers of eventually programs being eroded away. And when you have benefits for the workers just from their own, because when they're able to get their own benefits from their workplace, because the workplace is more democratized, they have a greater say, they have more say in their benefits, their pay, and all that. They don't have to worry so much about these programs eroding. But also because those programs won't be eroded because there's not. Well, actually, no, that's different. I'm going way back into social democracy. But for the most part, I think just with workers just having a greater say in their own workplace democracy, they'll have better lives because of it. So that's kind of a vague reason why. I was trailing off into other ideologies there for a second.
All right. Is that it, Paul? Or
Yeah.
all right, Joram, this one.
So, yeah, I'd probably align myself more with capitalism. I don't really want to discuss all the other ideologies because there's gonna be a lot to discuss just with communism, fascism, Marxism, socialism. There's gonna be a lot to discuss. So I'm just gonna stick to the capitalism. For me, I tend to favor it more because of I just feel like there's a freedom of choice. You have more choices in where you want to work, what type of job you want to work, buy whatever you want, do whatever you want, basically in terms of your money. And if you what do you call it? I'm starting to trail off here. But if you're successful in it, you have a chance to be very successful in the capitalist market. And I just feel like there's more opportunities for success in a capitalistic market, especially with more competition.
I'm going to disagree on that. I would argue that capitalism, you actually have far less choice when it comes to where you want to do and what you want to work, or even when it comes to products you want to buy. Because under a capitalist economy, the main idea is competition. And in theory, when there's competition, both sides will be going against each other to create a better product, a cheaper product that the consumer will like. However, at some point, one is going to get the edge over the other. And once that edge is there, it's going to keep growing, eventually beating out the competition. And eventually, and let's use Monopoly as an example. Everyone starts off like pretty much equal at the beginning. But at the end of the game, there's that one son of a bitch that owns every tile on the board and has complete control over everything. And that's like a perfect symbolism for capitalism. Eventually, that competition goes away, and when you're at the top, you don't want any competition. You don't want anyone to have like any anything that could like threaten your profits. So when you see things like Coca-Cola or Pepsi, and you think, pick which one do you want. Like, in theory, you have a choice between like which one you want. But when you find out that both are like owned by the same company, then you're like, this isn't really a choice. They're pretty much the same thing. And that's like same with like cereal, or when it comes to like cars and a bunch of like products on the market. There are like a lot of them are owned by the same company. Just on the branding, they have different names, so they give you the illusion of choice. And when it comes to your workplace, you mentioned before, like, there's a chance that you make it to the top. But I say like 90% of people don't make it there. So, for the chance of like that 10% or whatever that you make it to the top, most people are stuck at the bottom. And they're not going to have like, if they're only listening to like what their employers are saying, they don't have an actual choice in the workplace either. They also necessarily don't have a choice like which job they want to work, because one job has certain benefits, one job has certain pay. You can't just like pick something like, this is what I'm passionate in, this is what I enjoy doing in my life. No, people are going to pick something that like, this pays the most amount of money, I'm most likely going to survive if I pick the job. And so they're not picking it because they want to. They're picking it because they have to. And that's not really a choice, in my opinion, under like a capitalist system.
Going back to hold on. Yeah, you mentioned about the choice thing, but about how there's not really a lot of choice and whatnot because of monopoly. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. Monopoly. I don't think that's like the capitalist system's fault as too much of the government. That should be the government like putting restrictions on that, like making sure those monopolies don't occur. I don't think it's the economic model's fault. I feel like it's more of the government side. They need to be the one monitoring that stuff, because there needs to be I feel like for that capitalist system, to work efficiently, I don't know if that's the word to use for it, but I feel like there needs to be a balance between government and the economic model here.
So, just to kind of jump in a little bit, so Joram, would you be in favor of social democracy then? Because in social democracy, basically what it is that it's like a really friendly version of capitalism, where it's like, I want the private market to flourish and all that, and I'm going to put a lot of regulations in place to make sure that, obviously you don't do terrible things like give people food with shit in it, but it's also to make sure that we don't have a Facebook where Facebook has this giant market share over the social media market, and then everything else just gets absorbed into it. Like, for example, Instagram used to be its own thing, but now it's owned by Facebook.
I think a perfect example of what you said is Disney with the entertainment.
Yeah, they absorbed Hulu like it was nothing, and So would you be in favor of social democracy where we break up like Facebook and Google into smaller,
Entities.
entities so that we could easily make it easier to not make them become a monopoly as they are currently.
I would. I think that'd be fair for me to say that I would support something like that because
Okay.
yeah,
Hmm.
in theory, capitalism works if there's competition. You know, like I feel like the more ideas there on the table, it's that competition is going to yeah. Let's say you have a product that you've made, and Paul mentioned Facebook. I'm trying to think like a better example here, but if you have more competition, there's going to be different options to choose something better than Facebook. People are going to want to, be motivated to come up something better than Facebook. If Facebook's there and they're controlling everything, then yeah, that's not competition. That's where the that's where I feel capitalism. That's not really capitalism if one thing's creating the monopoly and controlling all of it.
So would you say our system is a failure to what it could be then, compared to what it could be, like being like a social democracy where we have those regulations in place?
Because I would argue that right now what we currently have is something we would consider like late stage capitalism. Like we went through like the beginning stages and then the middle stages, and now we're like near the ending stages, like the late stage, where there is no more competition left, and anything that tries to like be like new or start up, very rarely do they become successful. It's always like another company that's already at the top. They'll just buy out the other company, because like for the small owner, they're like, shit, this is what I take the massive deal right here, or maybe at a chance to like make some money down the road over a long period of time.
Wouldn't that like, well, at least for me, at least I'm thinking like maybe like if that's the case, then wouldn't that like force companies, to try and be more innovative?
No, because like if you already won the game, why would you want to be more innovative? You want to
No, but
get goals to make more money.
saying in a system where, what Jimmy said, we do break up these monopolies and they're separate companies again. Like, wouldn't your view as a person who owns the company to be more innovative then at that point?
Yeah, for like some part of it, but eventually it all comes back anyway. Eventually, like you break it up, but eventually they will like reform and become their own giant entities once again over time. Because when you're successful, you want to hold on to that power because money is power. Companies will be breaking up by the government, but eventually something is going to be super successful and it becomes like a household name, and then we go through the entire process once again where they beat out all the competition, they buy out all other competitors, and they own this entire monopoly, and then we have to rely on the government to step in and break them up. But if there's also that company also bought out the government as well, and they're not as willing to break them up because they're also getting a good deal out of it personally.
Okay, so I just want to jump in now to Paul. So Paul, you believe in socialism, and in order to reach to a point where we can have democracy in the workplace, do you think we should undergo a transition into social democracy first, and then over time turn that private market into a worker-owned co-op after, like, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years, whatever? Or do you think we should just like rip off the Band-Aid and just turn as much as we can from capitalism into a socialism model, right away or as soon as we can?
I would say I would go with like slow transition to the eventual socialism with like social democracy first, and then transitioning over time into socialism, because that's pretty much what like I think Marxist or Karl Marx with like thinking about when he like described socialism, and like eventually we'll go through capitalism first, or like we'll start with like feudalism, we'll go to capitalism, and then eventually make our way into socialism, and then eventually going into something like communism, which would be more like a classless society. So I would say we would do like that slow transition, because if you just like jump from like capitalism straight into socialism, it's still currently, even though it's becoming more popular over time, it still has that that negative connotation that people feel from like the Cold War. But
I
also
think-
because if you just jump into socialism, there is a chance that you mess up if you do like that sudden change, and then people are gonna like, oh no, fuck this, and then try to like go back into like capitalism.
Okay. Sorry, Joram. You have anything to say?
I think the reason being is I think people are getting communism and socialism like confused.
Oh, definitely,
To
yeah.
be fair, most people can't even define socialism.
Yeah, like
I consider myself a socialist, and even sometimes I have a hard time to find
Like-
what it is.
there's like really distinct similarities between both. Like in communism, no one owns their own property and whatnot. All economic resources are publicly owned and controlled by the government. And the definition of communism, at least from what Marx imagined it to be. Socialism, that's not the case.
I don't think that's even necessarily true. From what types of communism has been implemented by, like the Soviet Union, for example, they weren't even what Marx pictured to be communism. It was just basically their own version of it, or some people call it Stalinism, for example.
Yeah, it was definitely Stalinism.
Whereas
Taken out.
Marx believes in a classless, moneyless system, kind of like in Star Trek. From what I don't watch it, but I heard this as an example where in the show apparently no one owns money and no one has a class. Like I'm not middle class or lower class or whatever, and then it's like socialism plus basically, where it's like socialism. Then they have a whole bunch of other things in place where it's not just the community owning things. It's just like everyone just kind of has their own share. And I'm not saying that you're wrong, John. I'm just saying that's just to clarify. That's what Marxist communism is.
It's not so much that everything is owned by the government. It's more that everything is owned by everyone.
Yeah.
Like,
Whereas with
Yeah, it's our stuff.
Yeah, there's no individual.
basically communism is a type of socialism, but not every type of not socialism.
I always just picture them as like two separate, separate entities, and I feel like people are getting them mixed.
For sure. People don't even know what people think. Bernie Sanders policies, for example, Medicare for all, free college. They think that's socialism, but that's not even necessarily socialism. That's just that's just social democracy, where it's just like, hey,
that's just center left.
Yeah, it's
more centrist.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry. I just want to clarify that. So continue.
Oh no, that was just my that was just the thing I wanted to add on to that.
Okay.
We started at 6:30. It's like now 9.
How long have we been? To be honest, I've lost track
2.5 hours. We'll try. Let's move on from this one, because this can be a very long topic. We could talk about for like hours, but
we could potentially turn this into like a 2-parter if you guys want.
Yeah,
we can. My only problem with that is that I feel like I want something where Dean, Kenny, and Jeffrey can participate more and just asking questions.
Definitely.
I'm just here.
But if you want, you can end it here. And
I'm alright.
Next time you guys have me, we can have a different topic.
I'm chilling too. You can keep going. Don't mind at all.
All right, we'll get through 3 more questions, one from Dean, Kenny, and Jeffrey, and then we'll end it after that.
If you want, they don't have to be serious questions anymore.
Yeah, it can be their random BS questions if you guys want.
Yeah,
so, starting with Dean.
I was completely wrong at the beginning when I thought like it'd be mostly, or like at least like 50-50 serious and half not serious.
Yeah. So Dean, ask a question. If you don't want to pick one, just randomize it. Up to you.
Alright, would you rather have dick-sized nipples or a nipple-sized dick?
I knew someone was gonna choose that.
The
one.
moment Dean came out with so much enthusiasm, I'm like, yes, I know what this is gonna be a joke question. Alright, so what was the question again? Dick size what now with
Dick-sized nipples or nipple-sized dick?
nipple sized dick?
That's what you would want, Paul? Nipple-sized dick?
No, I'm looking for the question. I was just repeating what the question was.
Paul's like, how long is my nipple-sized dick?
Oh, it's number 34.
or a
Alright.
dick-sized nipple?
Would you rather have dick sized nipple or nipple sized dick? I'll go with the nipple sized dick.
Okay.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm surprised you chose that one.
You know, that's not that bad. He doesn't have anything showing off of his chest.
That's basically a vagina, though.
Basically, but at least I don't have like fucking like dicks like off my like chest, because everyone's gonna see that no matter where I go. No
Yeah,
matter how hard I try to hide that,
Yeah,
that's
I
popping
I
out.
think you gotta start wearing a bra after that. Just
Yeah,
like,
even if you have like a tiny dick, if you like maybe like sporting like a 2-incher, it's still that's pretty noticeable.
I
But
think
if
2
you
inches
just
is
have,
kind of generous there.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure they're gonna get innovative and find a way to hide.
They use tweezers. They use
Dick-sized
tweezers to
nipples.
beat off.
yeah. Well, we don't currently have that technology.
Well,
I would just go with-
million dollar idea here, guys. Just spitballing.
what spitballing like an idea for an issue that doesn't exist.
Hey, it might exist for somebody out there, Paul.
Somebody, but how many people do you know have like dick-sized nipples?
I don't know because they've hit it so well, Paul.
Band-Aid.
Well, I guess $1 million idea don't work because they already have found a solution.
Yeah, there's things called band-aids. You just band-aid them.
No, he's using duct tape for those dick-sized nipples.
Oh yeah, definitely.
it's easy on the skin duct tape. That's what it is.
The fuck?
What, you don't like a free wax?
Yeah, Paul.
I
Are
don't
you
wanna-
into that? Are you into that stuff, Paul?
I'm no masochist. That's maybe what you're into, but that's definitely me. I don't get off on like ripping tape off on my dick.
Yeah, I like to be the one ripping off what duct tape. You know what I'm saying?
What? I don't know where this is going anymore.
I know. I'm just bored.
What about you, Joram? Have you picked one?
Let me think about this one. Big size of. I'd go with. Yeah, I'd go with the dick size nipples. There's gotta be a way to hide that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, band-aid.
I think you just if you wear 2 layers, you might be okay.
Yeah, right. Like, just you could just wear. There's a way to hide. I feel like you're overcomplicating the hiding part.
Yeah, imagine you got a girlfriend, you guys about to do it, and then you're like, I don't want to show my penis, it's too small. And she's like, oh, it can't be that small. And she just, she just sees her nipple.
Or I could be like, yo, we're getting into bed. I'm gonna let you know, my dick's real fucking small. All right, let's do this. All right,
How small could it be? It's just
she'll be turned on from the confidence.
So from that saying, you're basically saying that if you're you got a small peepee, it's okay, right?
Hey, it's not about the size.
That's how you
It's
use
about-
it, Jeffrey.
It's about the confidence.
this
It's not-
is why
it's not-
piston dicks need to be a thing.
It's not the size of your dick. It's the size of your confidence.
Oh, I
All
like
right.
that.
Put that on those inspirational posters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So next we got Kenny asking a question.
Your mic's muted, I think.
Nah, he's
Kenny?
gone.
Kenny?
Oh, I can.
I see his thing lighting up.
See it lighting up too.
Yeah, I think it's not getting through there.
All right. Well, while we wait for him, how about this? Would you rather only be able to jerk off, meaning you never have sex, or turn 1% more gay every time you jerk off?
Who came up with these questions? Damn you.
That sounds like a gym question. That sounds like a gym question.
All right, I'll answer this one first, then I guess.
I already know my answer.
Only be able to jerk off or turn 1%. So
what's Kenny's question? Cool. What's up? What's up?
all you can do is just jerk off. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like when you eat, you're still drinking off. Is that what you're saying?
When you what?
Like when you're eating on the table, like
What?
you're jerking. Like when you're eating, like because when you phrase the question, it says only be able to jerk off or turn.
Jerome, I think you've been I think you got jerked off and stuff.
Time for supper. Joram just beating off in the chair.
Because my understanding of the question is that's all you're able to do.
Yeah. So no sex. That's it. You just jerk off. Or you can jerk off, but you turn 1% more gay every time. So if you do 100 times, you're completely gay.
I'd go with the second option. You
Wait,
gotta
so
play your cards right.
I misunderstood this. So wouldn't it be only? That's
Yeah.
That's the only thing you do.
Yeah, because that the first part confused me. Like,
I thought
that's
it
all
was
you
like-
could do.
I thought like your only sexual pleasure is jerking off. You can't have
Yeah,
a partner.
I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah.
what it means.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, yeah, I was like, I would like only
Okay.
jerk off then. Like I'm fine. I've been doing that for several years now. I'm fine with that. I got no problem with just like not having sex. I could just have like instant come anytime I want.
Yeah, see, I can't do that. I'm gonna go with the second question. That's a very lonely life. I'm sorry.
I'm fine with it. I don't like sharing a bed anyways.
So let's say
See,
hypothetically.
The key for the 1% more gay thing is you just have to, time when you want to do it. Be more self-controlling.
What the fuck does that mean?
Self-control, Paul. I feel like you don't have it.
You have to ration it.
You have to ration it. You have 100 usages, and it,
I don't know. Like, is it like 10 or 25% more gay? It's a substantial amount.
Yeah, I think 50% is already like very gay.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. You got 50.
Yeah, you're pretty
chances.
much just bi at that point.
Just-
I mean, I guess you have more options, so I guess that's cool.
Are you switching over? I mean,
No, I'm fine with jerking off.
Wait, Paul. Why did you not pick the second option, considering you said that you were willing to suck off Michael Jordan potentially?
no. Did you hear what he said?
I
just
didn't
don't want to
say-
share. He
I
just
didn't
said,
say
I
I
just
was
don't want to
willing.
share a bed. I'm like, what the freak is that?
I didn't say I was willing to suck off Michael Jordan. I just said the chance ain't 0%. Right? That's just what I said.
Oh, so
Yeah. So
because I remember in that question also you weren't really, you didn't like say that you would turn. What was the thing that we were talking about? Like he wasn't committed to not becoming gay or something like that.
yeah, something like that.
He came out.
He's
the
not
closet,
ruling out being gay in the
but at
future.
the same time, he's denying it.
I'm not ruling out sleeping with the guy.
Oh, so
Because-
that means you've already reached your 50%.
No, I'm definitely straight.
You there, dog.
I'm definitely straight. I can still be straight and like sleep with a dude.
What?
Hey,
No,
if
no,
a guy,
no, hold on, guys, hold on.
hey, if a guy pays me like $5,000 to sleep with him and like have sex, I'm like, fuck it, I'll do $5,000. I'll do it.
That's just prostitution.
Your standards are so low.
Hey,
Hold on,
$5,000 is
what Paul
pretty good
meant
money.
to say, he's straight as a rainbow.
About what?
I'm not saying I'm gay, but I'd fucking do it for $5,000. Paul Oop 2020.
$5,000 just to have sex, easy money right there.
Hey, if you ever run for a politician spot, this podcast will be used against you, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
no.
Oh, definitely. But I feel as though people were like, you know what? People were like, you know what? I could fuck with that guy. That guy's cool. I
But
think
you
it
don't
makes
actually
like,
fuck them, though. You just, like, it doesn't mean that.
I think I could fuck the guy.
You know, no.
Because, like, you know what? Somebody watching this video, you know what? I have $5,000 to spare. Where's that Paul Luke?
I feel as if I'm running for office, I'm like pretty successful right there. But I'm just saying, like my current situation, fuck it, literally.
Alright.
But fuck him.
Okay. Next
Alright, now
question.
that we're done with Kenny, Paul, Jeffrey, ask the last
Jeffrey.
question, brother.
Yeah,
Can be serious, can be not, up to you.
please.
Then we'll wrap it up.
Let's just go with the random yes, please.
Sure.
They're pretty quick though.
Yeah.
All right. For oh god. I think I'm gonna go with this one. Yes, I'm gonna go with this one.
Okay.
Joram and Paul, you have an option of only one. Would you prefer blowjobs or hand jobs?
Oh, I thought it was the burrito for this taco one because I saw it got highlighted.
I thought you were gonna go with 34 if you were in prison.
43.
Yeah, that would have been a good ender right there. No, I have the ender. Okay, I'll do the ender.
Okay.
Okay.
And you can say this in a
Blowjobs or
quick
hand
sentence too, which is totally fine. Or a word, which is fine too.
Like,
Or you can say
what do you
neither.
what do you mean? Receiving or you
So
doing?
blowjob or hand job?
You're right. I should be more specific.
Yeah.
Receiving.
Receiving? Oh, I'd go with blowjob.
All right. Mr. Paul.
Yeah, I'd probably go with like blowjob, just because like I could give myself a handy anytime I just.
Okay.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I agree. Like, why pay for something? Or if you're assuming, like, why get something you can already get for free by yourself? You know, you can't blow yourself. You can't give yourself a handy.
Question
Well,
though,
not unless you're like
if
really
you-
flexible.
Yeah, if you could, would you?
No.
If I could like, if I could like suck my own dick.
Yeah, I'm asking you that, Paul.
He's a
I mean, if I was flexible enough, yeah, I'd be like, I'd do it out of curiosity.
Oh my god.
I knew you would say it. I knew you would say it.
Hey, I'm an open-minded individual, alright?
I think Paul's just gay, but okay.
Is it
Okay.
gay to love yourself like that? Like, wow, we're breaking barriers.
I know.
This is not new information though. I've like had this conversation before.
Okay, here's my take on it. I know myself. I know what's been done with it. I'm not gonna do it. Hell no. So yeah, what about you guys?
No, I'm not doing it. I already said no.
Yeah, I'm not
No.
doing it. It's weird, man.
Yeah.
I'd just be curious, but like, what would it be like to like suck my own dick? Like, if I was flexible enough, I'd do it.
Just come up with an armadillo.
I'm like the least flexible guy I know, so it'll probably never happen.
If you really want, Paul, you can have Joram like help push you so you can achieve.
I don't want to be there to see that.
Jeffrey, what's wrong with you? I
That's not how.
You see Jeffrey at the side. Oh yes.
You do it,
That's not how,
Jeffrey.
that's not how flexibility works. All right, that's gonna break my back. I'm like, nah, this fucking hurts, dude. My back hurts, and now I'm like pantsless.
And then you see Jeffrey. Hey, Mike, why don't you come in this too?
Alright, go ahead and ask the last question, buddy.
Yeah, that's the
Alright.
last one.
Numero 5. Are
Five.
traps gay? Let's see.
Traps. The.
Now I'll have to ask: traps are only traps in real life or traps in anime?
Real life.
They're the ones that
Real
dress like, for example, if it's a guy, he dresses with a girl, right?
Well,
That's
that's
a-
cross-dressing.
It's a very feminine looking dude in real life where you can see them being a girl, but then once you like see what's underneath, you're like, oh, this is different.
So this is in the situation if you did like you were about to do it and you didn't know that they were.
Yes, let's say hypothetically. I think I've asked this before, where hypothetically,
Mhm.
you're on a date with this girl. She's funny, hot, smart, all that stuff. And then you guys go to one of your guys' place to do the nasty, and then you pull down the pants and you see like a big dangling dick, and you're like, is it gay if I continue?
Yes, I think it would be.
Yeah, I'd say it would be gay if it's like
Yeah.
a guy.
Now, and the fact that I said that, I would also not continue to go on further with what I wanted to do. So that's the end of that night for me. Paul.
Paul.
I mean, if we got to that point, if we're already doing like the no pants thing, I'm like, go on, look, we made it this far. Like I'd be down to try it, new experience.
See,
I'm
Paul
curious.
is, I'll try everything once.
I give you kudos on your courage, Paul.
Hey, I can't knock it until I try it. Who knows? I might like it.
Oh God, no, no, no.
I mean, okay, guys, this is just all part of his self-finding experience. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like swallowing. I won't know until I try it. Yeah, come in my mouth, baby. Ah.
I wonder what it even tastes like. Oh, okay.
Ah, wow. It's like a French fry.
Michael,
Oh,
that
I
was
got it.
amazing, Michael.
You're the goat, baby. All right. On that note, sorry, Paul, want to say something?
You can't know until if you're completely straight until like
Yeah, but
Yeah,
there's
like,
something
yeah,
Paul
to the
where
dude, right.
there's
Yeah,
just something
definitely, like,
Paul where I don't think you really need to try.
you have gay
All
sex
right.
and you're like that's whatever.
Paul's ending message: if you're a dude and you consider yourself straight, fuck a guy first before you find out for sure. You have to do it.
If you're ultra flexible, you know what you want to do.
Hey, I think sucking your own dick is one of those things that like every guy says like, ew, fuck no, I don't want to do that. But if they're on their own, they're like, eh. I mean, I'm alone. I could try it. I mean,
On that note,
No, what the freak?
most people, it's one of those things people would say like in public, like, nah, I wouldn't do that.
Just do the outro. Just do the outro. Do the outro.
all right, Paul, stop.
I'm just very- I'm just
You're
very-
nasty. You're
I'm a very,
nasty.
I'm a very open book.
Jim,
All right,
I'm an honest man.
If you enjoyed this episode, I know this was a longer one than usual, but you know this is a more serious thing. And I know we just literally talked about Paul sucking his own dick and Paul fucking a guy and everything, but hopefully you enjoyed it, and we're probably going to continue this some other time. Hopefully, we're going to have Joram on again on the 4th of November, which is the day after the elections, where we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. If he's
That should be
available.
fun.
Yeah, it's a big event, a lot of things going on. And yeah, check out episodes 1 through 12 already on YouTube, and this one's going to be uploaded soon on YouTube as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, follow our Twitch channel live every Wednesday around 6:30 PT, and that's about it. And thank you for commenting on this stream. Very fun to see your comments. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a comment and a like below because you know let us know you're enjoying our stuff. And with that, thanks about all. Anything you guys want to add?
Bye. Paul's gay.
Goodbye.
Have a good one.
Okay.
Everyone.
Good night.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yep. Hope you enjoyed your time here, Joram.
Have a good rest of your
Thank
night.
you.